We'll call the meeting to order at 5:30. Amanda, could you take roll, please?
Yes. Chair Patricia Trouth,
Here.
Vice Chair Glenn Johnson,
Present.
and Commissioner Chris Duncan is out. Commissioner James Gross,
Here.
Commissioner Ron Medoc.
Was Ron going to try and call in?
He is on the line. Commissioner Medoc. Can you hear us? Maybe we'll come back to him. Commissioner Paul Templin,
Here.
Commissioner David Thiele,
Here.
Commissioner Medoc, are you there? We'll say not for now.
Okay, thank you. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I'd also like to have a moment of prayer for Emery's family. Okay, thank you. Let's see, agenda item 4, approval of the minutes. So we have 3 minutes to approve. The first one is from February 10th. Does anyone have any comments, additions, or deletions? Hearing none, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll move they be adopted.
I'll second. You want to take roll, Amanda?
Chair Patricia Trouth,
Here.
Vice Chair Glenn Johnson,
Present.
a
Here.
yay.
Okay.
Yay.
Commissioner James Gross, Commissioner Ron Medoc, are you here, Ron? Commissioner Paul Templin, Commissioner David Thiele.
Here.
Okay, let's see, we have the meeting minutes from April 14th. And I have one addition to make under, I believe it was item number 6, Commissioner Corner. So if we could add, a subcommittee was formed to research and present alternative solutions to Highway 101 from Chesterfield to Solana Beach. The subcommittee includes Commissioners Medic and Templin. Does anyone have anything else to add to the minutes? Can I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Chair Patricia Trouth,
Approved.
Vice Chair Glenn Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner James Gross, Commissioner Ron Medoc,
Approved.
Commissioner Paul Templin,
Approve.
and Commissioner David Thiele.
I'll abstain.
Okay, and then we have our third, this is from April 21st. Does anyone have any comments or any additions, deletions? Can I have a motion to approve, please?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Chair Patricia Trouth,
Approved.
Vice Chair Glenn Johnson,
Approve.
Commissioner James Gross, Commissioner Ron Meddock,
Approved.
Commissioner Paul Templin,
Approve.
and Commissioner David Thiele.
Approve.
Okay, agenda item number 5, oral communications. Oral comments, maximum of 3 minutes, will be heard from people who submit a white speaker slip to the commission secretary. Time donations are not permitted during oral communications. No discussion or action may legally be taken on such non-agenda items. If at least 2 commissioners agree, direction may be given to staff to put an item on a future agenda or provide additional information to answer a question. Amanda, do we have oral communications this evening?
We do. We have 4 speakers tonight. Our first speaker will be Josh Armstrong, followed by Bernie Dillon.
Streets, and also to hopefully, have some changes come to Village Square Drive and Encinitas Boulevard.
Forget we won't be the same. This is how we show our love by making sure enough is enough.
Coming up is some footage of what I've documented the past 3 weeks at the accident site that took Emery's life. And, but the thing I want to say first is we can all do our best by realizing every time we get into these seats, we have a huge responsibility to ourselves and the other drivers around us. So let's do our best to be the best drivers on the road. Put the phones down, eyes up, and just let's all do our best to be better drivers. Wow, that's crazy. Jeez. And there's the cop. That would be nice if you would have caught that guy. That would have been really nice. Whoa. One of the things I was wondering is it possible to consider a signal at this intersection of Encinitas Boulevard at Turner? To me, it seems to make sense to put in a traffic signal here to help slow down traffic entering this busy intersection of Village Square Drive. Of course, we have this hill here coming the other direction, and I think that's part of the speed problem coming in from west to east. So I don't know what can be done this direction. Again, I think putting a signal in here at Turner would really help that intersection at Village Square. There has been reports that there has been more police presence lately and more tickets being issued. So thank you, Sheriff's Department and the city, for that. I also want to mention that I didn't capture everything that I witnessed. One of the most shocking things that I witnessed was a driver looking down at his phone, absolutely going incredibly fast through the Village Square intersection. Thank you, everybody, for doing your part in keeping our streets safer for everyone.
Good evening, Planning Commission. I saw the agenda when you guys have a lot of things on this agenda, and I understand that the purpose is to slow down traffic. The best way to slow down traffic isn't narrowing the streets. I can't tell you how many times I've almost T-boned a car with those backup stalls on Santa Fe Drive, especially the ones that are parked behind SUVs, campers, big trucks. You can't see them until those cars are well out in front of you. Today, a little girl was playing with a ball on one of the south side streets. The ball went into the street, and I saw her way ahead of time. I was only going a few miles an hour. Stopped, the ball hit my car. But the big black US SUV behind me screamed around me, honked its horn, and was livid because I stopped in the middle of the street. He couldn't see this little girl. I drive a Fiat Pop, so it's a little car, but she was no higher than my rearview mirror. All the traffic that used to be on Santa Fe Drive is now on those side streets. People going way too fast down Lake, Justin, Munavar, Kathy Lane, and Ocean Crest. You want to slow down traffic? It's real simple. You put cameras up everywhere and you start issuing tickets. When people get that letter in the mail that they have to pay $150, next one $500, they're going to slow down. Third ticket, they lose their license. This is the way you slow down traffic, not narrowing the roads, not putting up backup stalls or planter boxes. Start putting cameras up everywhere. One, that will lower homeowners insurance fees that everybody are paying around here. They're astronomical. Second, that will slow down traffic. If you start pinching people's pocketbooks, they're not going to be racing down the streets anymore, especially on our main thoroughfares, Encinitas Boulevard, Leucadia Boulevard, and Santa Fe Drive. Please start installing the cameras. Stop spending millions of dollars to narrow the roads. Put up bike lanes with the ballards. Protect our kids on their bikes. But put up cameras and slow the traffic down. People having to cut big checks and go to, driver school are not going to be speeding down our roads anymore. Thank you.
Next speaker is Lisa Provenzano, followed by Laura Van Dusen.
Good evening, Commission and staff. Running the red lights, which the photo cameras would help, because I did hear from several people that can be a $500 fine, and that could finance the cameras because so many people do it every day. And if you ask 3 people in this room, someone has seen one probably today. In some of the intersections, left turn arrows do not allow for enough cars to go through and cause traffic backup. An example is Encinitas Boulevard going east away from the beach with left turn onto Quail Gardens Drive. The left turn arrow timing only allows for 4 cars to make a left turn legally. The 5th car always goes. The 6th car often goes illegally. This is another example of running red lights, which is the cause of many accidents. This also results in a backup down the short left-hand lane, backing up into the middle through lane, another factor contributing to running of red lights, because drivers get upset, they lose their temper, they're frustrated, and they think, I'm not going to wait for this next light because I'll have to wait through the arrows and everything else. Encinitas Boulevard's already a nightmare. 1,044 new units built on this small stretch of road will exacerbate the situation, and I would be happy to hear what the plan is when that happens. What is the plan for 2026-27 school year? Paul Leckie Elementary School is going to be torn down and rebuilt. Half of the students will go to Parkdale Lane for the year. Families will drive up Encinitas Boulevard. That's a lot more cars. Half of the students will go to El Camino Creek. That's off El Camino Real and Calle Barcelona. They will be traveling up Leucadia Boulevard. Santa Fe Drive is already a mess from what's there. Does the traffic engineering department look at things that will happen soon, like this? Do you have a plan for how you're going to address the traffic problems for Village Park residents, Leucadia residents, and all the areas around Encinitas? There are always so much road work on Encinitas Boulevard. This traffic adds problems. You have projects going on concurrently. If you could have more people on one project finish it. When it goes down to one lane, that turns into something really bad, and I'm sure you've all experienced it if you live in Encinitas. Fix the timing of the lights. There's absolutely no excuse for that problem that it creates. Even Public Works is right up the street on Calle Barcelona and goes through that intersection where there are cars always in the intersection because of the timing of the lights. The line of sight on Quail Gardens Drive, coming out of Quail Park community, is 66 yards. The road tilts down. You can't, to get out, you just always have someone beeping at you. So, just that small area.
And our last speaker is Laura Van Dusen.
Hello. I've never, ever done anything like this before in my life, but I'm going to be honest, this was a last-minute decision to come up here and speak, but I'm friends with the Chilikian family. And I wanted to represent the ginormous community of Encinitas residents that I've spoken with that are concerned about street safety in Encinitas, specifically parents who want to feel like there are improvements being made so our children can walk around in their community. And I live on a different busy street in Encinitas. I don't want to take away from these wonderful ideas. I loved Josh Armstrong's idea for the street light, but I've also had same concerns about letting my kids walk alongside Encinitas Boulevard or Via Cantabria. They're speeding on Via Cantabria a lot. So please, can we do something to make the parents and the residents of Encinitas feel like there are structures being put in place, flashing lights, this extra street sign in memory of Emery? Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. We appreciate it. Okay, we're at agenda item number 6A. Nick Buck, you'll be giving us an update, please?
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, and members of the public. I'm Nick Buck, the city's mobility manager, and just have a brief update tonight about some of the mobility programs happening this and next month. In that picture there is from our Ciclovia Encinitas event this past Sunday, where thousands enjoyed spending time on the 101 free of cars, enjoying getting around by feet, skateboards, bikes, etc. First, I want to talk about education, a couple of items to be aware of. We have MOUs going to council in June for e-bike and bike safety education for the 25-26 school year. For the Encinitas Union School District, that includes assemblies and on-bike activities, both at the start and at the end of the school year for all students. At the San Diego Union High School District, it includes assemblies, webinars, and our in-person 3-hour classes to be held on Encinitas campuses. Also going to council in the same month, we'll have our crossing guard program through our MOUs with the school districts that'll provide for crossing guards for the 25-26 school year. For the Encinitas Union School District, that includes 11 crossing guards at school sites, and at San Diego Union High School District sites, that's 2 guards. That's for Oakcrest and Degano. Recapping May Bike Month, we're getting toward the end of the month, but we've had a lot of really good stuff going on, including Sandag's Bike Anywhere Day. That was on May 15th, where the city hosted a pit stop on 101 to encourage all people to enjoy active transportation and getting to where they're going by bike. Ciclovia Encinitas, as I mentioned, was held on Sunday the 18th, this past Sunday, on Coast Highway 101. This is the 5th year that we've done that event. It encourages people to get out and enjoy their community and, see things differently on the 101. A lot of great pictures, a lot of great memories. People really enjoy that event. We're happy to put that on. And then May Bike Month proclamation, we believe that'll happen next Wednesday at City Council meeting. So that's annually when our city proclaims May as Bike Month in Encinitas in alignment with county and national efforts. That's all I have for you this evening.
Okay. Do I have any comments from any of the commissioners or any questions?
Mr. Buck, thank you so much. I was down at Ciclovia, I think, a little bit later than I was last year, and it was very crowded, and especially with kids. So I want to congratulate you on that. You're doing a great job, and it seems like people are coming out and enjoying the Coast Highway without cars, and in particular the kids. So thank you very much.
Thanks for the comments.
Keep doing a great job. Thanks.
Okay, the next agenda item is B. It's San Diego County Sheriff's Department. And I just want to welcome Sergeant Christy Trampus.
Trampus, yes.
Thank you.
Just give it the screen. Good evening. I am the new traffic sergeant in Encinitas, or the North Coastal Station. I've only been here for a few weeks, so I'm going to talk about last month's stats, even though I wasn't here. So I'll do my best to answer any questions if you have any at the end. So what you're seeing up on the screen is just some statistics for the beginning of this year all the way through April. The top one is basically the NTA that's noticed to appear, so citations given. As you can see, quite an increase just last month. Next is DUIs. We had fewer DUI arrests last month than before, but it sounds like hopefully we'll have a couple, I don't know if that's in the works, a couple new DUI cars starting at the next fiscal year for us, so that should hopefully increase those numbers in a couple months. And then the bottom one, accidents, unfortunately, as that number is showing higher last month than previously this year. And then the next slide is just showing the location of collisions and then where the citations are being issued. So we try to look at where the problem areas are and then send the deputies out to those areas where we're having more collisions to try to enforce, to get people to obviously slow down, stop at stoplights, and issue citations. So the brown circles are where the accidents are, and the blue circles are where all the citations are being given, if that makes sense. So we try to overlap them as much as possible. That's all I have as far as stats. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Well, I was going to ask if it's possible in the future maybe to add some more given there's been some discussion about more fatalities this year and concern about that's trending upwards, if it'd be possible to provide some more statistics showing serious accidents and fatalities on this report, and then also maybe a little bit of trending to show what it's been like the last couple of years, and whether it's trending up or down. I hate to call fatalities a trend, but it's obviously more serious than that. But I know there's been some discussion about that.
Okay. I'll make a note for next month.
Okay, thank you.
Include that. Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Johnson here. How many motorcycle officers do we have on duty?
We currently have one that's on light duty. We have one in training, and we have 4 that are out actively working right now.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Curious what that street is that's east of El Camino Real. That has a lot of spots on it.
East, okay, so El Camino Real is, yep, you're saying east of that? Is it Village Park? They've been doing, it looks like Village Park is what I'm being told. It's not written on there.
If we could finish getting comments from the commissioners, and then we'll open it up to the public.
Oh, my apologies.
Commissioner Thiele, did you have something you wanted to say?
I did, yeah, thanks. Sergeant Trumps, thank you for that report. Previously, Sergeant Collis would have various comments on the type of citations. And generally, I know you haven't been in Encinitas long, but generally, do you think the top citation is, as what we heard from Sergeant Collis, is a distracted motorist? Would you agree with that?
I don't have an answer for that. I apologize. Next month, I'll make a note to break those sites down so you have a better understanding of what they're being cited for.
No problem. And from what I understand, the second is actually speeding. And I'm wondering, Sergeant Collis also said that you, with our municipality, you can combine with other municipalities to get motors, extra motors out in the field. Do you plan on doing that in the next month or two?
So yeah, so all the motors in San Diego County for the Sheriff's Department, they do what's called strike teams, and they'll all get together and go work a certain city, usually on Wednesdays, and they rotate through the entire county. I don't know if they have one scheduled this month, but next month I will be prepared and let you know when those dates are, when they'll be here.
Excellent, thank you. And I have a question on just the details of what a DUI car is. What does that mean?
So we're going to get two more, from my understanding, two more traffic cars that are strictly going to be out looking for DUI drivers, not responding to crashes, but strictly looking for drunk drivers, getting them off the road.
Excellent, excellent, yeah. Thank you.
Is Sergeant Collis still on the force?
He went to San Marcos. Yes.
So he's not?
He's not in Encinitas anymore. He's the traffic sergeant in San Marcos now.
Okay. That's interesting. Is there an update on the April 26th fatality from a criminal investigation perspective?
It's an ongoing investigation, so I can't really give any details. But
Any details?
We are actively investigating it.
Do you have any information on the January 1st fatality of the cyclist?
I do not, but I can get that to you
Does
next
anyone
month.
here have information on that?
Is this the hit and run?
No, that's a different fatality this year. January 1st was the motorist that hit the cyclist.
I can get those answers to you.
So I'm guessing you don't have information on the hit and run either?
I do not.
That was the fatality on January 19th?
If you give me whatever crash you need details on, I can get those to you. Sorry. Like I said, I'm just getting here, and so I'm starting to.
When did Sergeant Collis leave?
About 6 weeks ago.
And there's no, what was the sort of bridge between Sergeant Collis and you? It seems like we've lost a lot of information on things like ongoing criminal investigations to people that have been killed in Encinitas.
I'm sorry, I don't really understand the question.
Like,
You're asking,
you don't know what happened to the cyclist that was killed on January 1st? We don't know if there's an update on that?
I'm actively looking at several reports that are being submitted for multiple reports or multiple accidents in this city. I don't know the details on that exact one off the top of my head. I've been reading a lot of reports since I've been here, so I can look that one up, and I don't want to give you details off the top of my head because I don't want to mix it with any other crash, but I'll make sure I have details on those for either if you want to talk to me after, I can get your info and give it to you sooner, or next month.
Thank you. I think it's important. We have, one of the things we're trying to deal with is declaring a state of emergency for 4 fatalities so far this year.
Understood.
And we've had questions within this council on whether or not we can do that because we need the criminal investigations to be closed to make sure these aren't somehow happening for reasons other than distracted driving, drunk driving, and others. So yeah, I think that's important. I wasn't aware that Sergeant Collis had left because that's a lot of information that we don't have now.
He's a
And
phone.
it'd be good to have that, Abe, long-term. We need to know when something like that happens, because that's a big disconnect when we're pending criminal investigations and things like that.
Yeah, we usually get collision reports as they're finalized by the sheriff's office within a month after they're done. The staff gets a copy, especially the ones that are severe injury or fatality. They get reviewed by staff. If the collision report, I'm assuming the fact that we haven't received them is probably what the collision report is not final yet. But as soon as they're finalized by the sheriff's office, the staff receives a copy.
Okay. I mean, January 1st and January 19th, that's 4 months ago. 5
Understood.
months ago. Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, thanks, Commissioner Gross. I think if you could review that information or possibly gather that information, and if you're unable to give us details about the ongoing investigations, but if you could give us progress, and so we can see that something is being done, and if you could review Sergeant Collis's reports, and within the department, I'm sure those reports are there. But if you could, that would be helpful. And then for our next meeting, we could have that information, and then we could discuss then.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to open it up for public comment.
I don't have any public speakers for this item.
Okay. Is it, Amanda, if we have someone that wants to speak, they can speak, correct? Do they need to come to the podium? Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Sergeant, are we investigating any other deaths in Encinitas besides these deaths happening on our streets? Is there anything like a hit-and-run death, like a murder or anything?
I don't know of any murders.
Okay. Well, we've had murders on the street. But.
Yeah, I know traffic reports, and I know they are all actively being worked on. I've spoken with my deputies, so I will get you updates as soon as I can.
Thanks.
Are we taking questions from the audience? Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Yeah, I can get those numbers for the next meeting, if they just let me know when that date is.
June 9th.
Anybody else?
We have one other speaker.
Okay.
Next speaker is Laura Grimmer.
Thank you. Hello, thank you for taking my comments at the last minute. I don't have anything prepared, but I'm also here in support of my dear friends, the Chilakians. Emery was my daughter's best friend in kindergarten and first grade, and I've lived here since 2009, and it's just been, I live on Delphinium Street, near the intersection of Delphinium and Encinitas Boulevard, and my daughter goes to school at the near Quail Gardens and Encinitas Boulevard on Westlake. And she's been walking to school this year, and after the accident, I said, I don't want you to walk. And she said, I don't want to live in fear. My 12-year-old daughter. And every morning, so we let her go because that's a really important life lesson. You can't live in fear. But every morning when she walks out the door, I'm like, kind kind of panicked. And she's told me how when they know the traffic rules, she and her friends, just like Emery, she was following the rules. And she's told me repeatedly, there's been a white Jeep a couple different times they're crossing, they have the green hand or whatever, or the green man, and they're crossing, and some jerk in a white Jeep just comes and turns, right turn up Encinitas onto Westlake. It's like, do people not know that that's illegal, So again, I don't have anything prepared, I'm kind of rambling, but just to say, all we see is people looking at their phones, people speeding, people running red lights, and it's like, please declare a state of emergency when you can, because the city of Carlsbad did that, and you already see improvements in Carlsbad. And, we can't live in fear in this beautiful place, but it doesn't feel safe. So, just in honor of Emery and in protection for the rest of our children and for Coulter and everyone else, you guys probably have families here too. Please, whatever you can do. We pay taxes and we want to be able to stay here, but it's scary. So, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you.
Rihanna Glore. Thank you. Yeah. Next, we have Rihanna Glore.
Hi. I also don't have anything prepared, but for many months now, my husband and I have kind of been noticing that there's just kind of a lack of traffic enforcement. And I think that that is what's leading to people feeling like more emboldened to run stop signs and run red lights. There's like a 4-way stop sign near our house in Village Park that's by like a 7-Eleven. And all the time we will stop at the stop sign and then we watch other people that just go straight through it. And it's not like I want a police state or anything, but there's never any cops anywhere at stop signs that give tickets. And same at red lights. Like, we take our son in Carlsbad to his preschool, and every single day we see a cop there on the same street. And so not to speed because the cop's there every day. So it seems pointless to have the cop there every single day, in the same exact spot. But then we go to all these other intersections where there are never any police anywhere. And so it just feels like, there's like certain towns where, like where I grew up and you knew that like if you ran a red light, like you'd probably get a ticket, But then we live here and it's such a beautiful place. And I love that there's not a lot of crime and things like that. But it just feels like there's also no enforcement. And unfortunately, it just feels that that is what's leading to more accidents and just people just not being accountable for their actions. So we would love to see more enforcement. And then hopefully that would prevent some of these tragedies because, right now people are just not listening to the rules of the road. So thank you.
Are there any other speakers? Okay. Let's see, agenda item 6C. Abe?
Yes, Chair. Thank you very much. Abe Bandigan, City Traffic Engineer. We had this item, Commissioner-initiated item by our Commissioner Medoc, I believe 2 meetings ago, with regards to his findings of collisions on our cycle track phase one of the project south of Chesterfield, between Chesterfield and Solana Beach. And since there were various sources used in commissioners' report to commission at that point, when Commissioner Meddock did his commissioner-initiated item, MTSC at that point asked me to go to our standard database, the state database that has the official collision history information, and bring a report back to commission with regards to the number of collisions that was recorded in the database, in the Sweeters database, and provide the information to the commission. What I have here tonight, I brought the whole database for the 8 collisions that were on record. These are the 8 collisions that are in the Sweeters database. That is official. Christy, correct me. Has the name changed, or is it still Sweeters? It's still Sweeters. The state's official collision database. These 8 collisions, I've reviewed them. These are the ones that have occurred in the cycle track area, the phase 1, south of Chesterfield to the border of Solana Beach. Upon the review, 2 of these have happened during construction of the project, which unfortunately one of them I was on site. The contractor at that point had not properly secured the site while they were constructing the wheel stops and bollards. They were unmarked, and 2 of these collisions were associated with bicyclists hitting those when they were just black on black. Basically, the wheel stop that was just built didn't have any kind of pavement marking or any kind of striping on it. Another 2 had vehicles involved. These are, I haven't been able to find the actual collision reports to read because we do not keep those. Due to our retention policy, the collision reports that we receive, they get shredded after 2 months. So the actual record keeper is the sheriff's office. But I can go back and see them. Based on the data that we have here, 2 of these are vehicle involved, and the number of claimed injuries are higher than 1, which means that there were people in the car that also claimed injury. And then 4 are hitting a solid object, which is a bicyclist in those protected areas for various reasons, hitting a wheel stop or a bollard and falling down. These are individual cyclists. We have every single piece of data, so if commissioners have a question, we can look at the columns about the time of day, the weather, the condition, the day of the week, the type of injury that happened. But the majority of these, almost all of them, the primary factor was either identified as a speed or distraction. If I'm looking at this one, this is a primary collision factor. As you can see, they're all A's, which is, this is a vehicle code. And number 3 is unsafe speed. 1 is under influence. This is our unfortunate fatality that we had at the border of the city of Solana Beach. 0, I believe, is undefined. 0 is when the reason was not detected. And 8 was improper turning. So we have 2 improper turning, unsafe speed, and these are like the total number of people involved. So all these 1s basically means it was just a cyclist. There was nobody else involved in the collision. So I also did look at, and I had looked at the list that Commissioner Meddock has looked at. And we did discuss this, I believe, before with the commission, not with all these members, but with previous commission members. The list that comes from the Facebook group that was made to express concerns over the cycle track. The gist of it is that we discussed last time. To don't want to drag on, like continue too much talking about it. The gist of it is that because of the vertical elements that we have on the road, similar with driving, if we have a vertical element, if there's a tree, if there's a stop sign, if there's a signal pole, if a driver makes a mistake, if an error happens, for any reason, again, not discussing about why that mistake happens or that error happens, if a driver makes a mistake and goes off the road, if a pole is not there, a driver would not hit a pole. And it's totally safe. They probably go off the road for a few hundred feet and then they can get back into the road. Any kind of vertical element is not forgiving. That's basic, I guess, traffic engineering. So if you have a sign, if somebody hits the sign, it would fall on their windshield. If the sign wasn't there, it wouldn't fall on their windshield. The idea that these bollards and wheel stops have caused these injuries due to their design flaw, as a traffic engineer, I do not agree. These are totally standard engineered, and we have, like, Caltrans has a big manual on this with regards to their spacing, their height, how they're supposed to be built. State has, MUTCD has guidelines on them. So these are not something that we made up. They exist, there are standards for them. But the argument that if they weren't there, if a cyclist drifted off the bike lane by like 3 feet or 4 feet, they could have been forgiven and nothing would have happened to them. And now if somebody goes off because they're talking to a adjacent rider, they're looking at the ocean, and any reason, again, not talking about why it can happen. The majority of the collisions on that Facebook and the ones that Commissioner Medoc have found, again, we do not have records of them. Those are from what people have said on that page. Again, assuming all of those are actually collisions that have happened. When I looked at them, the majority of, like, super majority of those is somebody was riding, for some reason they got this, and I believe Commissioner Medoc had a video last time of a situation like that. A bicyclist gets distracted and then hits the bollard and falls. But the official records said there's nothing about a design flaw, there's nothing that was due to improper modification of the road, there's no recommendation from the Sheriff's Office to modify any of these, and there hasn't been any litigation on the city due to any kind of improper design. But then again, I'm not denying the fact that there has been injuries. But again, were those injuries due to a design issue? I as an engineer, as a city engineer, do not consider those design flaws. I'm open to questions. And again, there's a lot of data here. Any specific questions you have about these 8 collisions, I'll be happy to clarify a little bit more.
Okay, I'd like the commissioners to be able to weigh in on this, and then we'll listen to Commissioner
Well,
Meadows.
I just had one question. It looks like you've got 2020 to 2025 data. Do you have anything before that? To show sort of what it was like before the bollards were installed?
I don't have it with me now, but I do have it. If Commission wants to do a comparison of what it was before that, I'd be happy to bring it.
Yeah, and then I had heard that if the accident occurred within the cycle track, they aren't typically, there are no records of a lot of those accidents.
No, these are collisions that happen on the cycle track.
Okay.
No, the ones that, like, I guess not all of them. 2 of them have vehicles involved, but the other 6, I believe, 5 of them are in the cycle track.
Okay.
No, they are recorded. If Sheriff's Office, Christy, correct me if I'm wrong. No, it doesn't matter that it's a solo bicyclist. If the Sheriff's Office, if a Sheriff deputy shows up and it's an injury or fatality, it is going to be recorded.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be great to see this sort of before the bollards were installed and after they were installed, to see if there's any difference in terms of the number of accidents, something like that.
Okay. Some other Commissioner Thiele?
I do. Thank you, Chair. Abe, thanks for that information. I just, if you could, maybe just generally on the 2 accidents that were the vehicles were involved, do you know, or is the information there that occurred in the Sharrow? Kind of in the
Correct. One of them I do remember. It was a cyclist on the southbound side, number 2 lane, right close to the city of Solana Beach border. It was evening, and a vehicle hit the bicyclist from rear.
Okay, thanks. And also, just in your research and in terms of your design expertise, would you say that wheel stops are to prevent vehicles from crossing over into the cycle track?
Yes, correct. When you drive over there and you observe the edge of those wheel stops, the number of tire marks that you see on those clearly shows how many times they've been hit. And obviously, the simple assumption would be per the number of tires, those wheel stops have prevented a car from entering a bike lane. Now, obviously, there has been cases where a vehicle's speed has been so much that it broke those and jumped over those into the cycle track. This has happened. There has been a collision. Maybe it is the vehicle collision that we have here, because that one I'm sure was recorded. I believe there was a Lexus between Las Olas and Solana Beach that hit it at a high speed, broke two of these, and then jumped into the bike lane. It's not going to prevent 100% of vehicles going in there, depending on their size, speed. But it for sure can drive vehicles away from the cycle track.
Great, thanks. I just I have a comment about the entry points, north and south. Is it possible to identify those bollards in a bright color? For example, fluorescent yellow instead of green. Is that a possibility, just to make people aware that you're entering that area? As a cyclist, you're entering that.
We did add additional signage at the entry, especially after the fatality that happened, because the fatality happened northbound right at the entry to the cycle track. We did have a standard signage, and the bollards are per standards. The color is green. The reflectivity we can increase. We can add additional reflective bands on them, or maybe double or triple the number of bollards at the entry to kind of create a more visible reflectiveness, I guess. The color is defined. The spacing is mostly defined. Signage on the side of the road, we did that for the cycle track at Solana Beach. We added, I believe, 1 or 2 signs on the side of the road that you're like approaching a cycle track. We can do those kind of things, but I guess the downside to that would be if we add a lot of vertical elements, now we're increasing the possibility of somebody hitting those vertical elements.
Yeah. I was just suggesting making it brighter. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, Amanda, is Ron ready to present?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Abe, thank you for your presentation. Can you assist me with the PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to present now, please?
Sure, Commissioner. Is there a lag, Commissioner, or no? You're.
So.
You have to tell me to move. To go to the next slide every time you want me to.
Okay, so I just want to let everybody know I am not able to view the screen, so I'm going to rely on Abe to pull up the slides as I ask for them. Are we looking at 101 cycle track phase 1 collision history right now?
Correct, yes.
Okay, great. Next slide, please. I am first going to present collision data from 2 official sources. One is the California Highway Patrol California Crash Reporting System, or CCRS, which was formerly known as SWITRS. This data represents only collisions for which police reports were generated. That's the data that Abe just presented. The other source of official data is the EMS, the Emergency Medical Service dispatch logs obtained from our fire department. Next slide, please. I'm going to report the data for two segments of the 101. The orange line shows the portion with the Phase 1 cycle track that stretches from the southern city limit up to and including the Chesterfield Drive intersection. And the yellow line on the left side of your screen shows a control segment that runs from there up to and including the K Street intersection in Encinitas. Next slide, please. The Phase 1 cycle track was installed as of April 2020, and CCRS data is available currently through December 2024. That creates a 57-month study period after completion. So to make a before and after comparison of equal 57-month periods of time, the before time stretches from July 15, 2015 through March 2020, and the after time stretches from April 2020 through December 2024. Both the CCRS and the EMS data were filtered for both location along the study segments and bicycle involvement. Next slide, please. This is a sample of some of the data. It shows the dates and the times of collisions, along with the unique CCRS collision IDs and the EMS incident numbers. The table shows, if you look carefully, how some collisions resulted in a police report as reflected in the CCRS database, while others resulted in dispatches of emergency vehicles that are reflected in the EMS logs, and some are in both. Next slide, please. And here are the results. The main observation in the upper right is that the Phase 1 segment had a total of 18 collisions before the cycle track installation and 27 after, representing a 50% increase. In contrast, the control segment had 14 before and 13 after, which was largely unchanged. This helps control for other factors that may have changed between the before and after time periods, such as bike volumes. It is also important to note that solo bicycle crashes tend not to generate police reports, so they do not appear in the CCRS SWITRS database. The column labeled only EMS in this table shows numerous additional bike crashes that resulted in emergency vehicle dispatches that contribute to the totals. Next slide, please. For additional reference, this chart shows average daily bike counts at our 101 and Coastal Rail Trail junction. There was an increase in 2020 during COVID, but ridership has settled back down to the pre-COVID levels. Total ridership was likely about 10 to 15% higher in the after time period, which does not account for the 50% increase in collisions. Next slide, please. Now, I'm going to introduce a separate crash list maintained by Mr. Sergei Isakov since the installation of the cycle track. The list has now grown to over 31 crashes, 21 of which are not included in either CCRS or EMS data. There's enough detail for 19 of these crashes that they were directly caused by the cycle track arising from collisions with the wheel stops or flex posts, or by forcing riders into the vehicle lane. In other words, these crashes would not have happened in the absence of cycle track infrastructure. These crashes have involved both experienced and casual cyclists, and I'm going to describe some of the specific incidents. Next slide, please. This is the video that Abe referred to before. I'm going to ask him to play it one more time in case anybody missed it. Can we run that at half speed? Was that at half speed, Ed? Okay, let's go to the next slide.
Yeah, I don't think I can do a half speed here in this one.
That's all right. So let's go to slide 10. Thank you. Next slide.
Oh, we are on the next slide.
Oh, okay, thank you, Ed. This is a photo from October 5th, 2024, in which Ken, an experienced cyclist of the North County Cycle Club, acting as sweeper, hit a flex post, crashed, and broke his clavicle and 5 ribs. He also had a concussion and a brain bleed and was taken to the hospital unconscious, where he awoke later that night. Next slide, please. And this is a photo, a more recent photo from April 29th, 2025, not even a month ago, of another experienced rider, Herb, who hit a flex post and wheel stop, crashed, and suffered a concussion. EMS was dispatched and took him to the hospital. Next slide, please. And this is the scene after the fatal crash of Captain Curry on March 17th, 2024, shortly after the beginning of the cycle track. This was actually predicted by Carl Rudnick when he spoke at City Council before these were even installed. He said specifically in this area, one can expect during poor visibility hours that there were going to be serious accidents. Unfortunately, the fatality of Captain Curry was the second very serious accident in this area. There was a triathlete, a semi-pro, who close to the time of the installation was there at 5:30 in the morning, pretty much following what Mr. Rudnick gave as a predictive scenario. And his career, he ended up being taken to Scripps Memorial Hospital Trauma Center with very serious injuries. It ended his semi-pro triathlete career. Next slide, please. On May 3rd, 2020, 2 different children hit wheel stops, and one of them was thrown into the number 2 vehicle lane. Fortunately, there were adults there that got that child out of the lane before his child was hit by a car. On May 26, 2020, Len, who's an experienced randonneur, and for those of you who may not know what a randonneur is, those are long-distance bicyclists, extremely serious bicyclists. They ride often in multi-day 100 to 200 mile and more long races, competitions, or friendly events. He hit a wheel stop trying to avoid surfers and suffered fractures. On March 13th, 2025, Annie, who was a bike commuter, was forced to ride in the number 2 vehicle lane because there were pedestrians in the cycle track. She was crowded by a close passing car and attempted to enter the cycle track, struck a wheel stop, and damaged her bicycle. Now, the last case I happen to be involved in myself, so I'm going to go into a little detail on that. I was riding, I took a ride down to Torrey Pines that day. It was Mother's Day in the afternoon. And on the way back, I was about a quarter mile south of the Chesterfield intersection with the 101. And I saw 2 fat tire e-bike riders who were off their bikes in the cycle track. And as I was riding by, I glanced over and noticed a young lady was bleeding in several places, from her head, from her shoulder, and from her foot. And she looked distressed and dazed. So I'm an MD, I'm a doctor, I'm trained to help people. There was no way I was going to continue without asking if she needed any assistance. And she was so confused, she could barely answer at first. She said she felt, she could barely communicate, really. And said she felt dizzy and she was afraid she was going to fall. So I helped her sit down on the curb. We started talking, and I was able to see that she was oriented, times 3, but she didn't have any major injuries that I could see, but that she was acting confused, and but she did know, and she related to me that, because I asked her what happened, and it took a while, but she was able to tell me that she lost control of her e-bike. She thought on some sand and swerved to the left, hit a wheel stop, and then crashed and hit her head. She was complaining that she could not see colors and that she was having a very difficult time hearing. And I suggested that we call an ambulance and that she go to the emergency room for a proper workup and a probable CT scan to rule out any kind of intracranial bleed. She didn't want to do that because she was afraid it would cost too much money. So I was able to find out from her that she had PPO insurance, and I told her that if you have PPO insurance, they're going to cover this ambulance call. And then she agreed. And the man accompanying her, I don't know if it was her husband or boyfriend named Charlie, called 911. The dispatcher got on the phone and kept Priscilla on the phone. And within a few minutes, the welcome site of the Encinitas Fire Department paramedics was on the 101 coming towards us from the south. And they immediately took over the situation in a very professional manner. I don't know the outcome, but she was taken to the local hospital for proper examination. Next slide, please. So I've described 27 collisions in the CCRS and the EMS databases after the cycle track was installed, 50% more than the same time period before. And I've described 21 more well-documented crashes from the 101 crash list. Next slide, please. Our 2022 Encinitas Local Roadway Safety Plan used an approach called equivalent property damage only scoring to assign societal costs to collisions. It did that by assigning standard crash costs for different severities and summing those values for many of our street facilities. And here I am showing that same type of analysis applied to the 19 crashes that were a direct result of the cycle track. And while these are hypothetical societal costs, this demonstrates at a minimum that this cycle track has had a significant negative effect on the society of Encinitas. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Question here, Abe. We've seen this presentation before. This presentation is also not in the notes for the meeting today. Are we just allowed to give presentations whenever we want?
This is basically Commissioner Maddox, as a commissioner, instead of talking like you can speak about an item that I present. This was totally Commissioner Maddox statements. This is not a position of staff. This is not a position of commission.
Okay.
It's like you up there can talk about any item that is on the agenda with me. This was Commissioner Maddox's way of speaking with me and with the commission.
Okay.
There's no action associated with
Are
this.
there any different slides here than what you presented before, Commissioner Maddox?
There's actually a great deal of difference.
Why did you feel the need to present it again?
I mean, I think it was, if anybody attended the first presentation and attended this one, then they would have seen immediately that there were quite a few differences. In particular, there was a control segment done in order to be able to rule out variables that could be confounding to the results. And if anybody paid attention, who's asking that question to slide number 6 demonstrates that there was no significant change in the control segment, which is exactly the same length, by the way, as the segment in question between Chesterfield and Solana Beach, whereas it was at 50% higher before and after bicycle-involved collisions. And that is only the CCRS and the EMS data. The other crash data from the one-on-one crash list that Mr. Isikoff has managed are well documented. There are pictures here of many of us, several. I could have brought a lot more, but we don't have. I don't want to take everybody's time to go through every single case, but that data, that list is available in public record. Anybody who is interested can read it. So if we took the additional, it's actually 28 more crashes than we see here. It would really be 46, actually 19 more. It'd be 46 as opposed to 18. So yes, this is quite a bit different than the first presentation. Thanks for asking your question.
Yep, and I just suggest next time that, the more we can say, here's what I've already presented, here's what I'm going to present differently, just in, ability to consume the data and move on, that would be good, especially with everything else we have pressing going on.
I find it odd that, who's asking this question since I'm not present?
It's Commissioner
I don't know
Gross.
who you are. Commissioner who?
Gross.
Harris?
Commissioner Gross.
Oh, Commissioner Gross. Well, I would think that you might be you had expressed a lot of concern about safety. So it seemed to me that somebody who was that interested in safety might be a little more interested in what's happening in this particular area. And when the data shows that it's unsafe, you might be considering that there are changes needed. Thank you very much.
Okay, any other comments from commissioners? Okay, then let's see, we'll open it up to the public.
One general comment. We have.
You have to
On a speaker?
Amanda, can you clarify what needs to happen?
Sure. If you did want to speak, you just need to fill out a pink slip. Anyone who'd like to speak is welcome to, and you'll get 3 minutes. Right. On each agenda item, please. Thank you. First, we have Marco Gonzalez, followed by Judy Burlfine.
Marco Gonzalez with Coast Law Group, located on Highway 101. A lot of folks know me for the political law that my firm does, but we have 15 lawyers, and a big portion of our practice is accidents. That includes bicycle accidents, that includes accidents that we have made claims and sued various cities, including the city of Encinitas and Solana Beach. But not one person has come to us about an accident on this stretch that Mr. Medak has provided all this information regarding. It's unusual. When there are problems in Encinitas, eventually folks make it to our law firm, and there's a reason for this. And it's because when we're going to assess infrastructure as lawyers, when we assess the design criteria, when we assess whether there is liability or whether it is truly an unsafe condition, we don't simply look at did people crash. We look at a number of things, such as the infrastructure design details, the width of lanes, the presence of separation from motor vehicles, the continuity of lanes, the pavement conditions, signage and road markings. We look at traffic conditions, vehicle speed limits, actual and average speeds, traffic volumes, and turning movements. Importantly, we look at usage patterns and user behavior, the cyclist volume and demographics, whether it's commuters, kids, recreational riders, the historic versus the traffic that's been induced by the presence of separated lanes. We also look at environmental and visibility factors such as lighting conditions, especially at night, sight lines, weather impacts. The severity of injury or just the mere presence of injury doesn't tell us whether this is safe. One important thing that I would note in Mr. Medak's presentation is he said that there was a control site used. What was it? He never actually told us where the control site was. And I think there's an important reason for that distinction because this stretch is unique to Encinitas. You could maybe say that Swami South is similar in that it has a lot going on. It has a lot of distraction. It's a beautiful place that attracts a lot of people. But when you go to his database and you go to even his video of Fred, I've analyzed that video front, left, backward, sideways. When that very experienced rider, while trying to sprint up the hill, tried to move back into the lane, he had a pedal strike. His pedal hit the wheel stop, and that pitched him forward. That's rider error. When someone died coming out of Solana Beach, they were riding at night, without a helmet, without a light, while intoxicated. Now, we might say that, but for the presence of a bollard or a wheel stop, that may have gone very differently. But we can also say that reasonable riders of reasonable experience, slowing down, paying attention to the surroundings, and giving the care that's warranted riding a vehicle in these types of places would result in significantly less crashes. My kids have ridden their bikes with surfboards back and forth from Seaside dozens of times, as have their friends. And what's interesting is none of these crashes have included those people with those major potential experience and hazards attached to them. There's something else going on here, and we need to look deeper into it before we simply try to cast off this infrastructure, which is Mr. Medek's goal.
Hello, I'm Judy Burlfine. I always want to reiterate, no collision is a good collision, and we need to minimize them as much as possible. But maybe we're having the wrong conversation. This is a piece of the most beautiful real estate in Encinitas, and we are allocating that to cars that could go on our freeways, and they're driving like they're on our freeways. Maybe we could divide up our public space in a different way, so people who want to ride their bicycles fast, very fast, and don't want to be slowed down by me going 5 or 6 miles per hour, they can go in a bike lane. And those of us from 8 to 80, like the group of 16 adults and kids that rode during Ciclavia this past weekend through the cycle track, maybe we can have a place for them where their wheel stops. So if there's a car driving and they're looking at their phone and they're distracted and they hit the wheel stop, thank goodness they hit the wheel stop and they didn't hit me. So I think there's going to be later in this meeting a presentation about alternatives for that stretch where we can accommodate the fast riders and accommodate the slower riders and accommodate the car drivers. I think we have to have a different conversation. I think we can't be fighting about who was hurt worse than the other person. We don't want anyone to be hurt, but we need to think about what this most precious real estate in Encinitas is for. Who do we want to share our public space with? Thank you.
Next, we have, excuse me, Tom Bertulis, followed by Astrid Fleischer.
Hello. Hi, everybody. I want to take a deep breath. Thank you for letting me talk. Thank you for your service. Thank you, Commissioner Maddock, for this eye-opening presentation. So I live in Cardiff, and my stepkids graduated from SDA. So I have big opinions on kids here. And my heart goes out to, what happened with Emery, what happened with Brody, what happened with all these fatalities. If, that happened with my stepkids, that would be horrible. So I just wanted to put that out there. So thank you for all the emotional presentations this morning. So I happen to agree with City Traffic Engineer Dave Bannigan about this follows Caltrans standards, this follows METC standards. I happen to agree with Marco and with Judy on both of what they said. I did want to point out that, and Commissioner Maddock, I would love to have lunch with you. Please, let's have lunch. Great presentation. Unfortunately, there's lots of flaws in it. I have a photo on my phone that construction didn't finish in March of 2020. It was April 25th of 2020. I took a picture there. It hadn't finished yet. They hadn't put the white stripes on it. So please, please, please. Most of those crashes happened before construction finished. We really need to put that out there. You have the volume. I called Sandag. I said, tell me about volume. They said, well, we don't have any counters in Encinitas. So we don't have volume for Encinitas, according to Sandag. I said, well, what's the closest volume counter? They said in Solana Beach. and the volumes have gone up. So maybe we can compare information. Your research with the control, and Marco, the control was north of Chesterfield, from Chesterfield to K Street. And the problem with that as a control is there's a wide cycle track north of Chesterfield and a narrow cycle track south of Chesterfield, right? You got PEDs in the cycle track, so it becomes a class 1, where north of Chesterfield is a class 4, and you have a separate class 4 with a pedway. So you can't compare. It's apples and oranges when you're comparing north and south of Chesterfield. So there's all kinds of issues. I got 50 seconds. Let me just make my request. We've got Captain Curry fatality. My heart goes out to this family. The big issue there is the cycle track stops at the border with Solana Beach. Continue the cycle track all the way up to the first traffic signal in Solana Beach. Maybe that's not Encinitas, but it's Solana Beach. Make the request to extend it. It'll be a lot safer. By the way, I've biked more than 60,000 miles in my life, so I've driven that and biked that many times. I've had a lot of bike crashes. My heart goes out to people who crash. But extend the cycle track. That video we saw, he was trying to go between the two parking stops. That's a lot of the crashes, someone trying to go between the two parking spots. My request for the traffic engineers, put more flex posts between the cycle tracks so they can't go between, my time's up, so they put more flex posts. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. I wanted to say I find this new bike track fantastic. I think it's awesome for people. It's awesome for everybody, recreational, for kids, for older, for every age group that wants to go there. There are joggers there, there are walkers there. It's like a area that everybody wants to use, and I understand that competitive bikers may have an issue there, especially on the weekend when it's very busy, but maybe then they can slow down a little bit. I don't think... I'm with Judy. We kind of have to share. It's the most beautiful coastline we have, and it should be for everybody. So I'm not sure what the solution could be to make it better for competitive riders too. Maybe we can take away one car lane, so give the competitive bikers, a level 1 bike lane that they have north of Chesterfield. I don't know if we need really 2 lines going south. I can see maybe 2 lines going north is good when there's traffic jam in the evening with commuter traffic. So maybe there's some options, but I hope you're not taking away this bike lane. I think it's good for tourists. My sister loves it. When she comes visiting, she's like sending back pictures. I think it's awesome, so thank you.
Next, we have Christine Schindler.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Christine Schindler. I live in East Encinitas. So car drivers think bike riders are crazy people because we're so different. We have riders that want a lot of separation, a lot of protection. They want to feel safe. We have riders that want absolutely nothing on the roadway, and they want a vehicular bicyclist. They want to act like a car. And then we have everyone in between. So I just put that out there. However, for car drivers, if someone's on a bicycle making a trip to school or to work, that helps them. That's less cars on the roadway, less congestion, less competition for parking. So I just want to say that so that even car-centric people that are never going to ride a bike realize that there's a benefit to them if they ride a bike. There's a greater plan that I hope will move forward for this section of highway with a lane reduction and reestablishing the bike lanes. But in the interim, last year, September, I think, Carl Rudnick, myself, met with Nick Buck and Abe to talk about the whole stretch and potential things that could be done in the meantime. And we focused on Restaurant Row. So on the east side of the Cardiff stretch, where driveways stop and start as you go in and out of restaurants. And we talked about in that area, if you could remove wheel stops, either have bollards, not have bollards. You may have already talked about this. Unfortunately, I just arrived, so I don't know what was presented. That I thought was a good interim measure. Not removing all the wheel stops, reestablishing the way that it was, even though many of us loved it when it was that way. But I want a roadway that is useful for everybody and gets more people replacing car trips. So I come at it from a very transportation-oriented, climate action-oriented, physical health, mental health. So I'm not sure. We met with Abe. I've followed up a number of times. That's one thing that I just wanted to put out there, because that seems to be some of the most problematic areas. And I do agree with people who have mentioned that a lot of these injuries, a lot of these crashes happened before it was actually fully constructed. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you for all your comments. We're going to address the action items now. That's number 7. So, Abe, do you have a little presentation?
Thank you, Chair. Yes. Item 7A is our HSIP Highway Safety Improvement Program Cycle 12 acceptance. So a very short background. Every other year, it's a federal program, Highway Safety Improvement Program. I want to say states is about $900 million, if I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, is provided to the state, and then the state passes down to the cities for safety. These are specifically safety-related projects. Cities apply based on the collision history. Unfortunately, it's not the safety projects that the cities want. It's the applications that we submit are scored based on the cost of the project against the, I guess, unfortunately, I have to say for the record, the fatalities and injuries that has happened. The more fatalities and injuries at a specific location or a segment or a corridor versus the cost of the project defines how well your application scores. Even though there might be potential other safety projects that we know are beneficial or good for the city, if there is no collision history at those locations, they will not score. Because of that, HSIP grants are pretty much always correlated with the collision history around cities, and it's not just Encinitas, everywhere. We submitted 4 applications this last cycle. Fortunately, we were able to win all 4 of them. The previous city council had reviewed these ideas because there's no design when we apply for them. These are just concepts. They green-lighted it. We applied. We thought it would be a good idea because of the fact that we have some new commissioners and we have some new council members. It might be a good idea now that we won this grant, before starting the design process, applying to Caltrans to get design money, to bring this to City Council and obviously the Mobility and Traffic Safety Commission to pick up Commissioner's brain and then pass it to Council to say, hey, we applied for these, we won all of them, this is how we have to proceed, what do you think? We didn't want to basically proceed with the design, get money from Caltrans, and then find out that commissioners or council had a different idea in mind or don't like the project for any reason or things like that. So starting by first project, this first project is, the title of it, due to the collisions that have been submitted with the application, we have to have elements that address those collisions with the grant design, but we do have some flexibility with the other elements of design. This applies to every grant. For example, on Encinitas Boulevard, we did have bike collisions. The safety measure that the grant allowed us to include to remedy, to eliminate those, was create some version of a protected. We did add in there, and now we can add additional elements, some other striping, slurry sealing the road. These other elements can be added to that safety measure. The title of the project is Encinitas Boulevard Protected Bike Lane. We did add a capacity enhancement option to it. The idea is between Via Cantabria and Cali Magdalena, basically east of the freeway from Cali Mag, Crack Shack, all the way to Via Cantabria, this grant allows us to implement protected bikeways, adding buffers, adding bollards, and with that, we have the option of doing additional improvements to the corridor. We were able to get about $900,000. The city's match is just 10%. So 800,000 is the grant. Another 90,000 would come from the city. I do have designs. Maybe it's better to go one by one, and then we go to the next one. I don't want to confuse you with. So this is, I don't know how good the quality is. Again, to clarify, we are not at the design level. We're not at an approval level. There's no engineering has been done. We're just at a concept level. With the concept, we applied to Caltrans, and they gave us the 900,000. And then, obviously, each project has its own number. At this time, you're not approving anything. We're just here to tell you when we applied, this was the idea. And then if you have other ideas, or if council has other ideas, they will tell us. If they want us to not accept the award, we can. So this is, I would just want to clarify, you're not reviewing any kind of design right now. These are just ideas and concepts. So between Cali Magdalena all the way to Via Cantabria, we checked the corridor. We have some level of service concerns in the future of the city. The level of service will drop to level of service E at multiple segments here. Obviously, the grant, due to the collision history, had the protected elements built into it. We mixed the two. At a concept level, we feel there is an opportunity to increase capacity by adding a third lane, by adding left turn pockets, by adding right turn pockets. At multiple intersections, we can add a dedicated right turn pocket to improve flow, additional left turn pockets if we need, and also a third lane. In a lot of more than half of this corridor, there is room to add a third travel lane eastbound and westbound. That would obviously enhance the flow a lot. We would have to reduce the width of the lane a little bit to be able to accommodate these third lanes. It would have some traffic calming effect, but that would, I think that the overall would be positive for flow because we're adding a third lane. Maybe we're slowing down traffic a little bit because of the lane narrowing, but the overall flow would be much better. This is basically the concept that we have in mind. We obviously can do a lot when it comes to actually designing it. Our idea was to do a combination of safety enhancement and flow and capacity enhancement with those third lanes and right turn pockets. And for example, for St. John right now, cars lined up in the bike lane for hundreds of feet eastbound during pickup and drop off. With this design, we can add a long right turn pocket for St. John right before Ballure. Or even for Ballure, we can add a right turn pocket to enter Ballure from eastbound Encinitas and add a bike lane adjacent to the right turn pocket. So there is opportunity here. Again, I don't want to go deep into the design because we haven't designed anything, but these are the ideas that we have. This is what we want to present to council, that, hey, we have 900,000 for this. You can add money, we can repave the road, but these are the opportunities that we have. Additional turn pockets, additional travel lane, protected bike lane. In some areas, if we do a third lane, we cannot have it protected everywhere. Maybe in the most busy areas, highest bike activity, we can do a protected bikeway. But this is the gist of it for this grant. I don't want to go to the second one. I think it's a good idea to stop here, talk about each individual. I'll move with the questions. Thank you.
I'd like to open it up to the commissioners to comment.
I have a question, Abe. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Chair, you want to?
Okay. Can you tell us what the number of crashes that there were that you had on the application and what the nature of those? Were they right hooks at intersections, left hooks at intersections, Was it a single rider crash? Were they hit by a drifting vehicle? Were they overtaken? Was their vehicle pulled out? Do you know?
Yeah, this application was submitted about like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. I don't recall, but there for each type of collision, like this evaluation has been pre-built into the HC program by the state. Basically, we have to have a countermeasure, a safety countermeasure associated with the collision that occurred to get this score. If there is a collision that's irrelevant to the countermeasure that we introduce and ask for the grant, the state reviewer will not grant any score to that collision, if that makes sense. So the type of the collision that was that allowed us to get the grant was directly correlated with the safety countermeasure that was introduced into the grant.
Well, that's fine, but you can't provide us with any of that information at all today. Is that right?
Tonight, I don't have it with me.
All right, thank you.
So Abe, on Encinitas Boulevard, this wasn't part of the grant, but we have 2 deaths this year. January 1st, Encinitas Boulevard at Valley Parkway, a cyclist was killed in an unprotected lane. As far as I understand, at Valley Parkway, there's no protection today, I don't believe.
I don't think so, no.
And then we had a 12-year-old on April 26th killed at the intersection of Encinitas Boulevard and Village Square. As part of the grant, and we've heard from the public tonight about enforcement and slowing down, and do we think these are the best remedies for that, for making sure, does a protected bike lane help if people are speeding and going through red lights? Or do we need to first address that problem before we think about advocating for people to get out more on the roads if people aren't obeying the traffic laws?
Totally get your point, Commissioner, but my response is similar to what I provided Commissioner Meddock. This grant, the way the program is written, my proposal for the money to receive from the state has to be associated with the exact nature of the collision that was reported to the state. I have to say, I had this collision, this was the reason for the collision, this is the countermeasure that would, if there were collisions about, for example, running a red light at the time, I don't even know if HCIP has a countermeasure for people running a red light, unfortunately. But if there are like 10, 20, 30 different countermeasures in there that you can choose and say, I have a collision that this countermeasure would address, and then you'll get a point for that. Okay. I'm not saying those are not issues. That's why I said the grant is somewhat flexible as long as you address the original, the main scorer of your grant, which in this case was protected, as long as you have a few segments of protected facility built with this grant. If you want to narrow down lanes, if you want to add additional refuge, if you want to add additional crosswalks, again, I'm not talking about design. Let's say we want to add like 10 speed tables along the way. Fire department approves, we want to fund it. It is doable. The Caltrans wouldn't say, why did you build 10 speed tables along Encinitas Boulevard? As long as we make the safety measure that was in the grant.
Gotcha.
That
Thank
makes
you.
sense.
I guess the question maybe is, are there other grants that might be able to address these concerns that Commissioner Gross has that we could apply for?
I do know, maybe Christy, I don't know, there used to be grants from the state for enforcement, like automated, not automated, but using different safety measures for, yeah.
We do have grant money. It's from OTS, Office of Traffic Safety, and it's the Sheriff's Department gets grant money as a whole, and we have to split it up between all the cities. And there is money that we can use for DUI saturation patrol, DUI checkpoints, traffic enforcement, where they can go out and just look for speeders or red light runners. We have been using that. We only get so much money every year, and we have to split it up countywide. But for example, like this is a holiday weekend, so I know we're doing a DUI checkpoint tomorrow in Poway. We're doing DUI saturation here in Encinitas, and also in Santee, like other cities. So we have to share the money, but we do have money, and we do use it to get out there and enforce. They only give us so much money, and we have to use it for specific reasons. So, we do have that option.
On the grant size, is the grant, you mentioned that you qualify given the, potentially the dangerous areas. Is the grant size correlated to that? So that, for instance, the data that we were discussing, right now Encinitas is, from a pedestrian and cyclist perspective, is at a run rate where, we'll have 12 deaths this year if we continue on this run rate, which puts us at about 6 times, we're about 6 times as dangerous to walk or bike in than the average city in California. So is there an emergency way to get money for reasons like that?
The usual practice, the previous 4 or 5 cycles that I have been involved in the program, you can extend the project a little bit and usually get up to 15% extra. It's not much, but that's usually the case when you can prove that you can get the same benefit. Unfortunately, I said the benefit-cost ratio, I don't want to get too much into the way they award, but the simple way of looking at it is the numerator is the number of collisions. The cost table that Commissioner Meddock presented kind of shows that. They put a value on a fatality and a serious injury, and that's the numerator. All the collisions happen in a segment, gets added up. The denominator is the cost of your project. So if we find out that if we go do all of Encinitas Boulevard, the cost of the project goes up, which obviously if we make the project longer, the denominator the cost becomes bigger, and then our B over C ratio becomes smaller because now the cost of our project is higher. Now we know based on experience what B over C has a good chance of winning. If we make the cost of our project too big, then we know it's never going to win. We end up concentrating on the areas that we have more collisions, and then the size of the projects becomes smaller, and then that B over C increases.
May I interject something?
Chair, I think you have to let Ron know, otherwise Commissioner wouldn't know that he's...
Okay, go ahead, Ron.
I was just going to say that I've spoken to a number of commuter bicyclists, and I am a frequent bicyclist in the Cantabria down to Magdalene area that this grant is involved in. I think it's difficult to speak completely intelligently when we don't know the history of the bike crashes there and we don't have that data. But I did measure the bike lanes. Those are 4.2 feet. There's a 3-foot buffer in the entire area. And I don't think additional space is actually needed. And I'm saying that without knowing what the number of bike crashes are and how they occurred. So, but having ridden it many times and talked to other people who do the same thing, they don't see a need for any change, nor for the need for any vertical raising curbs or bollards or whatever that are possible crash instigators. And as far as the motorists are concerned, Encinitas has a lot of geriatric drivers, of which I'm one. I think that they are well served with that space in that two-lane, two-directional lane that's in the middle of that roadway. I don't think it's necessarily a good idea to take that space away from those people. Finally, I'm not a huge, I know that there are people that speed there, but there are people that are going to speed everywhere. Maybe we could have some traffic calming on this extremely important east-west artery that people need to get to their jobs or to wherever they're going. But I don't think that we should be trying to slow that down to inordinate levels. And I think we should spend our time instead, as far as the bikes are concerned, we can encourage Class 3 bike routes so that those bicyclists who don't want to be on a heavily trafficked artery, and I'm one of them, can take a Class 3 bike route to at least to the south. To the north, I think it's more difficult, and we can encourage that. And that'll be way cheaper the denominator would be just about zero. So that would be my suggestion. I'm not in favor of, I don't think it's a great idea to let your policy be determined by money that you get from the state. It's nice to get what people call free money. No money is free. We've all paid for that money one way or the other. But I don't think just because somebody offers you $800,000, once you put new infrastructure in, the money that it costs to take it out, if you don't like the result, comes out of the general fund of the city. And that's something we should always remember. Thank you.
Commissioner Templin?
Thank you. Well, two questions, Abe, and we've sort of emailed back and forth this week about some of this stuff. You said bollards. Is that bollards and wheel stops, or just bollards we're talking about on Encinitas Boulevard?
No, in the grant language, the only keyword is protected. So we can just have bollards. We can maximize the spacing. That's also my thought, because we know, because of the driveways that we have here and because of the activity, it's obviously way less than 101. We can have minimal number of bollards to address the grant language, but we do need some level of protection to basically receive the money.
Right, and following up on that, safety measure is required, it sounds like what you're saying. With that, is that only bollards, or is there something else that could be that safety measure that would also work instead of this?
I mean, the word protected usually comes with some version of vertical element. I mean, there are a lot of different options out there that we haven't used. There are like armadillos, there are...
But it has to be some sort of vertical element, is what you're saying?
If the protected element is to be introduced, it has to have a vertical piece.
Okay. And, I was just... let me get another one in here, Ron, before we go off again. The other thing I noticed along there, so a lot of this savings, I guess you're talking about, are because you're reducing the turning lane on Encinitas Boulevard. I noticed it looked like that turning lane's been restriped before, because I could see one section where there was like a lane that went right through it. Did we have a different design previously, or is there a history behind that?
During my 6-7 years here, I don't think we modified that very wide two-way left turn lane east of Quail, between Ballure and Quail. I don't think we have. At least I don't remember. We did narrow down the outer lane a few years ago. The number 2 lane, we did narrow it down. It was like a 16, 17-footer, 18-footer outer lane. We narrowed that one out and then added to the buffer, the saving that we shaved 3-4 feet out of that, and then added to the bike lane buffer. But that was about it. The capacity enhancement elements that I mentioned, they come from the turn pockets that we think we can introduce with this project. Turn pockets that are non-existent right now. Right turn pockets that signalize intersections, additional left turn pockets where they're needed. Again, because I haven't designed anything, I cannot say exactly where.
Sure.
But the grant does allow us to use this money to do striping modifications to address other concerns. We know our council at a development project review had this concern about the future level of service of Encinitas Boulevard failing under SANDAG future numbers 2035 or 2040. And I was presenting, and I heard loud and clear from council that they had concerns over capacity of Encinitas Boulevard. And when we got this grant, when we applied, this was not the purpose to enhance the capacity. But we now see an opportunity to intertwine these two different, totally different, safety enhancement plus capacity enhancement. But I don't see any safety flaw with enhancing capacity along the corridor with adding these additional safety elements.
So you're anticipating that near Quail Gardens, adding that third lane is going to increase capacity and mitigate to a certain extent congestion in that area?
Oh, absolutely. A third lane definitely enhances capacity. There's no question about it. One concern can be that now the third lane could have additional safety concerns, because now somebody coming out of a driveway, if they want to get into the other side of the road, now they have to cross 3 lanes. Don't get me wrong. These are all some.
And the lanes are a little more narrow too.
But the lanes are narrow, so the distance that they're crossing probably doesn't change as much. Like right now, they're probably crossing 40 feet before they get into the two-way left turn lane. They will still be crossing 40 feet, but now they're crossing 3 lanes. But then again, these are all stuff that we have to actually design it to see where those areas, okay, we have a driveway here with a complex having 300 units, like they all turn left here. What do we do here? Maybe we don't add the 3rd lane here. Maybe here we keep it at 2 lane. Like that's, but again, we're at a concept level. I want to hear what commissioners feel about the gist of it. These are all great questions. We don't want to really talk about a specific intersections or segments. Just in general, what you feel like what Commissioner Gross mentioned, like, can we add this to the grant? Can we address this with the grant? We do not like the 3rd lane option, or we love the 3rd lane option, or no, we want everywhere protected. These kind of ideas.
Well, I'll give you the unsolicited or the solicited feedback right now. I think the issue is the bollards, just because, as we've already heard, there's some disagreement about whether those are an enhancement or a hazard. But it sounds like what I hear you saying is that if we want to do it, then we need to put a vertical enhancement in there, presumably, most likely bollards.
Those are the cheapest and easiest to implement and easiest to remove.
Okay.
Can I ask one thing, Abe? Do you have any experience with audible edge lines?
Audible?
Audible edge lines.
Like
Are you
that you
familiar with
can they can hear them? Is it audible? Is that?
Yeah. So the nice thing about audible edge lines, they're not vertical. They have a similar function as a rumble strip. They're discs that are flush on the asphalt. They can be used next to a bike lane. If a car starts to drift towards the bike lane, that sound is transmitted into the vehicle, and the driver of the vehicle is going to know that they're too far to the right, so that they move back over to the left. It's a way to be able to protect the bicyclists without introducing a vertical post that's a hazard. I was wondering if you had any experience with those, because that might be something that would be helpful here.
Yeah, no, I totally get you. That's definitely something that I'll happily check with Caltrans to see. Our current standards do not have anything about it, but I can certainly check with Caltrans to see maybe as an experiment they do allow us to use that in the grant. That Caltrans does have the experimenting option. We can submit a letter and clarify why we want to experiment this. If it would qualify as a protected, I mean, that's something that I would have to check with them to see if they allow us not to do any vertical element and instead just do the audible that you mentioned, but I can certainly check.
Well, I would appreciate that, and if you can keep me in the loop in that discussion with Caltrans, I'd very much appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, Abe, I have a question. Would a buffer be considered a safety enhancement?
For sure, it is a safety enhancement. If we are adding bollards, METCD does not allow adding bollards without buffers, so we have to have a buffer to be able to add bollards.
Okay, but can you just add the buffer without the bollards?
It wouldn't be protected anymore.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other comments from the commissioners?
I would just say, to round it out, if we're going to work on, we have the grant money, we want to provide some protection, I would just ask that we also think about the what we've heard tonight, the enforcement and speed issues on Encinitas Boulevard. So, for people that don't know, recently California passed AB 645 bill, which allows you to put speed cameras in. We could run speed cameras on Encinitas Boulevard. There's 6 cities going through this pilot right now. We would very much qualify given our fatality rate. So anything like that, Abe, that we could add to address, if we're basically telling the public to go on this street more, we're also dealing with what we think people are really concerned about, which is the speed and the enforcement. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to open it up for public comment.
First, we have Ellen Byrne, followed by Scott Campbell, and then Marco Gonzalez.
Amanda, do we know if speakers are talking about this item or this is specific project? 'Cause this is just 1/4.
Oh.
They might have comments. Maybe we can leave it to the speakers. If it's not yet discussed, maybe they want to come back when it's discussed, or maybe leave the oral communication after all the 4 are presented.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, going to the next one. Excuse me. The next one is the protected intersection at South El Camino Real and Santa Fe Drive. This is the location that triggered our bike emergency in the city 2 years ago. The unfortunate fatality that we had, the bicyclist who was riding northbound, crossing the lanes over the northbound to get into the left turn pocket. And this unfortunate collision, City Council authorized $800,000 to the staff to design a protected intersection at that location. We provided some concepts. We drafted some concepts. No construction has happened, but before presenting it to the City Council, the concept designs that were done, we did win this grant. This is about $500,000 that we got from Willow Spring to Avenida de las Adelsas, basically a very small segment of El Camino Real. Again, this is titled as a protected bikeway, but the idea behind the application was with that protected bikeway along El Camino between Avenida de las Adelsas to blacked out. What was the other road's name? Santa Fe, no, south of Santa Fe, Avenida de las Adelsas and
Willow Spring.
Willow Springs, thank you. This segment would allow us to build the protected intersection. These are the concepts that were created. The protected intersection, as you all know, creates this minimally impeded bicycle infrastructure that would basically mostly protect against right hooks, shortens the crossing distance. This original design had some road diet involved, dropping the number of lanes to accommodate for this. We do have alternatives that keeps the lane configuration as is. I believe this alternative 2 has a lane drop, or this one has a lane drop. So the number of lanes for northbound and southbound in this one, as you can see, is just 2 and 2. This one is 3 for the northbound. And then we have another alternative. This one also has a lane drop. There is one-sided crossing. On the other ones, we had double-sided crossings. This double-sided crossing will obviously impede vehicular traffic a lot more because of signal timing. And then we have this last alternative, which this one has minimal impact on vehicular operations. The number of lanes remain the same. The intersection layout basically remains the same, has an additional westbound travel lane, because sometimes right now the northbound left turn and the southbound right turn, because they have to get into one single lane, there is some backup, and vehicles, especially from northbound left turn, they don't get into the westbound lane. This design does allow, this concept, not a design, this does allow these 2 northbound left turn and southbound right turns going to their own individual westbound lanes, which they have to later on merge. So this again, the concept for all of these grants originally was a little different from what we have right now, knowing the new council direction that we've had recently with our improvement of flow of traffic. So we are trying to minimize the road diets, the lane drops, and try to add other components to the design, not just safety elements, but also some mobility enhancements too. So this one has a protected intersection that does allow for some crossing. But again, this is a very, very back of a napkin design. Don't let the colors make you feel like this is an actual design. But this doesn't change intersection capacity as much as the other ones because there's really minimal lane configuration change. Yeah, this one, that's this for this grant. This one is about $500,000, I believe. I'm open to questions, Chair.
Okay, commissioners, any questions?
Yeah, I do. Unless somebody else was asking.
Go ahead.
I was wondering, Abe, what led to this was the unfortunate death of the 14-year-old e-biker that made a lane change, an unsafe lane change, unfortunately. But as our present configuration, we have a signal-controlled crosswalk on the south side of El Camino Real in that intersection, correct? And then we have a signal-controlled crosswalk across Santa Fe. So, I mean, I ride this all the time. It's not very far from me on my bike. If I want to go on Santa Fe, I never would try to go out to that left lane. And that's because I've gotten a fair amount of education about safe cycling. So I really think the solution here is in education. And it goes back to, in a way, what was really important, or let's put it this way, something that was on the list of the work action project, which we should put a lot more time into, and Christine Shinlin's doing a good job of that. So I think one thing that could be done on this intersection to improve it would be to put in a second crosswalk on the El Camino Real with a signal controller. That would be at the north side of the intersection. But other than that, I don't see where these other things are improvements, and I think that they're probably hazards. I could see possibly an island, but I don't even think we really need that if we have proper signal controllers and they're not short lights. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, I think we're good.
Okay, the third and the fourth are kind of intertwined. The third one, there has been discussions between the city of Solana Beach and Encinitas the past 3 years with regards to a pedestrian crossing at the border of the two cities. Last we surveyed, I believe about 3 years ago or 2 years ago, during a weekend we had, of course it was during summer, we had close to 300 people crossing at that location. The number was very, very large. The idea was to check different feasible options, installing a traffic signal for pedestrians, kind of like what we have at Swami's or Crest, or installing a rectangular flashing beacon, implementing a road diet at that location to add a uncontrolled crossing, but people, instead of crossing 4 lanes, only cross 2 lanes. City Council did authorize the previous City Council in 2022 authorized $300,000 to do a design and build. We did start some design work, had meetings with the City of Solana Beach. There were different opinions. This is in City of Encinitas. However, the view of the ocean from the City of Solana Beach, at that point, residents from Solana Beach contacted their city council saying if a signal is being built here due to the street lighting that has to be added, and also due to the fact that for a good duration of the year, maybe 5-6 months a year, that is less utilized, this signal basically would be an eyesore for the residents at the northern end of the city. So the City of Solana Beach recommended, instead of doing a full signal that would not be utilized and would just sit on green for 5 months of the year, why not consider rectangular flashing beacons? That's where we designed a road diet with a rectangular flashing beacon crossing, and that's when we applied with the grant. Now, again, knowing our new council might not prefer having a road diet there, we introduced a new alternative that does allow both lanes on each direction to remain. This is one alternative, as you can see, some sort of a Z crossing similar to what we have at Via Molina on El Camino Real, rectangular flashing beacons, and just crossing 2 lanes of traffic. This is a design that can work. Again, I'm using design and concept interchangeably, but these are all concepts, they're not final designs. Yield lines and people just crossing. This is from the Harbor Trail area to the beach parking lot. The other alternative that we have is the road diet option, where, as you can see, because of the road diet, we can now keep our protected bikeway and add a new bike lane adjacent to it, similar to what we have in the Phase 2 cycle track, where different rider groups can use 101 at their own pace. Similarly, for the northbound, we have the existing protected cycle track, but then we can have a buffered bike lane added adjacent to it if the road diet is implemented. And with that, the crossing obviously would be a lot safer compared to the 2 lane in each direction, because the conflict is minimized to 1 lane in each direction. This is the other alternative. We will be, as said, presenting these both to Commission and to City Council to see what the direction is from the City Council. But the crossing itself is the nature of the grant. As long as we build the crossing, Caltrans doesn't mind if the road diet is actually implemented or not. We can do it with it. And this is the third option. This was not in the grant, but we think we might be able to pursue this. This is a traffic signal, but instead of having poles and mast arms, this is a signal that is only going to be built with 1A poles, with the short poles with a signal head on them. So the concern from the Solana Beach residents that the tall pole and mast arm and the light above it would be an eyesore. With this design, that concern would not be there anymore, because these are just all short 1A poles. So this is a pet signal like Swami's, but without a mast arm. This option I think can be done, because we're still building the crossing. Obviously, this has a higher advantage due to the fact that provides a controlled crossing to the pedestrians. It's no longer a passive control like an RFB. These are the alternatives that we have for this crossing. And let me go into the fourth one, and then we can discuss the two together. The fourth one, from this crossing all the way to north of Las Olas to the beach entrance, the grant was to add a DG path, a walkway on the east side of the road where there is no pedestrian facility on the east side. That was, again, what was included in the grant. However, with this, with the concern of using the grant as an option to do other improvements to the corridor, we think we can add additional improvements. This is one, as you can see, this is just narrowing down everything to the bare minimums. Right now, our cycle track is like 7-8 feet in some areas with a 3-4 foot buffer. Our lanes are a little wider, so this basically trims everything to the bare bone to be able to accommodate for the 5-foot DG path on the east side of the road. Everything else remains as is. This is what we have out there right now. We're just forcing that 5-footer DG path in by narrowing everything else. This is similarly the same design in the areas that we have parking. Right by Las Olas, as you know, we have parking protected bikeway. This is the same design, just in the area that we have parking. So each alternative here has two pictures. One is for the areas that we don't have parking. This is basically like at the city border where we don't have any parking. And this one is by Las Olas where we have parking. This second alternative has a road diet. As you can see, we can have bike lanes. We can have a 2-way cycle track similar to what we have on the north side, bike lanes on each side for different groups, and then diagonal parking will add a lot of new spaces. I haven't counted this because, again, we don't have a design yet, but this will add a big number of additional parking spaces by the beach. Caveat is this needs a road diet. The additional space that's opened up that we can do new bike lanes and walkway and parking is because of the road diet. Similarly, where we had protected parking protected area, again, we can add a two-way cycle track and 2 additional buffered bike lanes with a road diet and a walkway. This is another option. The walkway is missing on this one, but we are converting it to a two-way cycle track, have a walkway, but then we just have 2 bike lanes on each side. The advantage of this one is this does not have a road diet. This is basically 2 lanes in each direction. But the advantage is we can introduce new bike lanes. And similarly here, we have bike lanes in each direction and 2 lanes in each direction with a 2-way cycle track. So these are options that, and this is the Santa Fe. So for the South 101, the idea is to build a walkway on the east side, but with that walkway on the east side, maybe we can do more to the both flow of bicyclists, flow of traffic, implementing a road diet. I would recommend, if we're doing a road diet, to connect both of them, basically build a crosswalk with a road diet and do a road diet on 101. But one idea can be to not do a road diet on 101 and just do a road diet for the smallest stretch where the crossing happens. And then in the Solana Beach, go back to 2 lanes. I did hear that the Solana Beach have been able to secure a grant to continue their coastal rail trail all the way north. That's another thing. If the rail trail comes to the border of the 2 cities, it stops there. So that's another reason that we can consider adding this walkway on the lagoon side and the crossing. But I did hear that they did win a grant to continue their CRT. But we have a lot of options. Again, the grant is very flexible with regards to what we can do there. And this one, for the crossing, the grant amount was about $400,000, and the 101 grant was $2 million, $1.9 million. I'm open to questions. Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions?
I have a question, Abe. First, I want to thank you for this particular presentation. There's a lot of interesting ideas here, and want to commend you for that. I'm very fascinated by the idea of a road diet. I know that would be unpopular, probably, for a lot of motorists. And what I would like to know is, what kind of data do you have in vehicular auto usage during the busy times of the year here? If we had 1 lane going in each direction, would we have a traffic jam, or what would we be looking at?
We haven't done an official modeling of traffic when it comes to, because this would have to go to Coastal Commission if we're doing a road diet here. Off of experience, the volume that we have there, I think last we checked, it was about 19,000 was the average daily traffic. That's 18,000 vehicles, 19,000 vehicles in both directions combined. The road can carry it. If I wanted to just say off of experience, in this area, the road can carry it due to the minimal number of conflicts that we have. If 19,000, like, to give you a perspective, La Costa between the freeway and 101 is carrying about the same amount, like 17,000, I think is the number. So it's just 10% more than that, but La Costa has all those driveways, all those stop signs, sites, like Vulcan has a stop, Sheridan has a stop. We have all those driveways. So there's a lot more conflict introduced to the road. But it's still, I mean, obviously it's not in perfect shape. It's not, the flow of La Costa is not perfect to say it's nicely flowing, but it can carry it. And I don't see, because of the minimal amount of conflict that we have here, 19,000 be that big of a problem for 101 to carry with just the State Beach entrance and then Las Rolas signal. But again, if it comes to Coastal Commission, we would have to prove with modeling and calculations and based on standards and guidelines that the level of service would be sustainable and the roadway will not collapse.
Well, I would hope that your staff pursues the idea of one lane in each direction and gets, if it would be helpful, but get proper data so we know. Because if we were to do that, this is one of the most beautiful stretches of coastline in San Diego County and therefore on the whole West Coast. And I think it's a shame that people can't enjoy it a lot more. And I don't think it should necessarily be used for through traffic. So if the traffic slows down and people feel that they can't use this for their commute and they have to go over to the 5, I don't see that as a bad thing. But if you only have 2 lanes, one in each direction, we can accommodate just a huge amount of uses for people, for runners, walkers, bicyclists inside bollards. There would be a huge amount of space. It would solve so many problems. So I hope that you continue to pursue that. And I know that at least one person on the city council said he was categorically against it, but maybe we could soften that position if we could demonstrate that it would still work.
Thank you, Commissioner. We will have a similar conversation with the City Council. I believe it's in June. But I will obviously incorporate in my report and my presentation what I've heard from Commission tonight on different items. I'll try to be comprehensive with regards to what I've heard. We will review the video to make sure I capture everything. But if at the end of the item, Commission wants to make a specific motion about a specific one of these or in general, I'm open to it. You don't have to. I will make sure that I capture everything when I'm presenting it to Council. But the direction, Commissioner, will come from Council on how they want us to proceed with this.
Correct.
I have a comment. The back-end parking seems like it's a big learning curve, so that would be something that perhaps we rethink. I know 2 of the options kind of show that back-end parking. And, it seems like it just seems like there's been a real learning curve along Santa Fe, getting people to understand how to use it. So, thank you. Any other comments?
Well, certainly I like the option of the controlled crossing. I think that makes the most sense there if you can find a solution that's acceptable. Is this another one where bollards and wheel stops are the only option, or would at a later date, if we get more consensus about what's appropriate, is that something that could be modified?
I mean, these 2, the crossing obviously is not bollard related. For the other one, the bollards are already there.
Right.
Depending on the alternative that's selected to design. If it's a road diet, obviously we would have to modify. If we do a road diet, we'll have a lot of equity to basically serve every single user group. That's one big advantage. We can have wide sidewalk like by the dunes. The DG path that we have right now is pretty narrow. A lot of joggers and runners, they use the protected bikeway on the southbound side to jog and run. With the road diet, we can make that walkway wider. We can add a walkway on the east side. We will be able to add parking. We'll be able to have a 2-way cycle track. Separate from that, have separate bike lanes for other user groups. So there will be a lot of options with a road diet. We can play with the angle of parking, head in, back in. But if we're going to keep the 2 lanes, our options would be a lot more limited because we won't have that much right of way to modify striping with. But the bollards, to your question, they are there, and there's nothing in the grant about bollards.
Okay, thank you. And with respect to the road diet, I guess I kind of share what Ron was saying. I'd like to see some more data and understand what the level of congestion is. At some point we go, it's 2 lanes all the way through to downtown, or at one point it's 2 lanes all the way to downtown, I think, right?
Correct.
So we'd have 1 lane, we'd have 2 lanes in Solana Beach, then 1 lane, then 2 lanes after Chesterfield or something like that?
We have 2 lanes all the way up. The thing I don't know is with the new grant that Solana Beach secured or about to secure, how would they implement it? There is a chance that they might do some version of a road diet on their side to be able to build the CRT. So that's the part I haven't talked to the engineers in Solana Beach to know what the status of that is. But on our side, it's 2 lane all the way.
Because it's a little confusing from a driver perspective when you're shifting from 2 lanes to 1 lane to 2 lanes to, the merging just kind of, and I'm sure it must disrupt the flow as well. So it would be interesting to understand what Solana Beach lands on as well.
Correct. That conflict and that confusion usually minimizes as signals. That's why if we do a road diet, we have a perfect option because of the Las Olas signal that we don't need to extend it all the way past. We can phase it. We can see how the 1 lane to 2 lane transition works at Las Olas signal. And then if this segment works, then we can extend it further south.
Okay.
Because
I guess
makes it easy.
my own feeling is even at the signals, it's a little awkward when you shift from 1 to 2, but certainly that's more of an opportunity there. But anyway, in any case, that would be the feedback.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to open it up for public comment.
First, we have Ellen Byrne, followed by Scott Campbell and Marco Gonzalez.
Good evening, Commission. This crosswalk that Abe just finished talking about should have been put in when they did the lagoon, but they didn't. So now they're going to do it, okay, which is great. And my preference would be that we stick with just a straight-on crosswalk with lights that do not disturb the lovely people of Solana Beach, or the zigzaggy thing that comes across. Because one thing is, we don't need any more lane diets. We do not know what, and cannot depend on what Solana Beach may or may not be doing. Going from 2 lanes to 1 lane is crazy, and then going back to 2 lanes, and then going to 2 plus a half lane. We don't need to create problems. We need to solve problems. And the one where there's an island in the middle, my fear with that, it seems safer, but are we going to encourage or accommodate people who are going to say, I can make it to the island and then I can go across? Or I can not make it to the island and I'll have to wait a long time. That's my fear with islands in that location. And let's face it, people are trying to get either to or from the beach. Secondly, the idea of this DG path, which apparently has expanded as a way to get funds to do a bicycle expansion and parking, which is totally new since the last time I heard this proposal. You don't walk with your back to traffic, and that includes bicycles and cars. And there's absolutely no reason, people are not supposed to be walking on that side of the road anyway, and there are signs strictly prohibiting it once you get to the Kraken. So why is anyone walking on that side of the road anyway? They're going to walk on that side of the road to go to where? Las Olas? And then, or the downtown Cardiff. But when they get to those restaurants, then they have to worry about what he was talking about, zigzagging through parking lots, entrances, and exits. So just let people move to the beach side of the street. That's where they want to be. No walking with your back to the traffic, because that includes bicycles. And furthermore, this would have to be approved by the Coastal Commission, even if there isn't a lane diet. And I wonder if anybody has run this by the Nature Conservancy, because this would not be the first time the city of Encinitas tried to pull something off without asking their permission, which includes Fish and Wildlife and whoever knows what else. And every kid with a bike would be doing the DG path and going down the side. Thank you.
Okay, good evening. We've got 4 things to talk about. That should be 4 separate items. Encinitas Boulevard. If we put 3 lanes going down the hill, people will try to pass each other. That's more dangerous than just having the 2 cars. It's not worth it. If the width isn't wide enough, let's not try to cram more stuff in. Cramming stuff in is just a sign of complexity. Complexity leads to errors and validation failures, and it's just bad things. Simple is better, less is more. We don't have to do this. These are grants. We're not required to do anything. In fact, I'm skeptical that we're going to pull this off because they have a December expiration date that we have to have the plans signed and stamped. Okay, now let's go to Santa Fe. I think I heard the word continuity. As a casual, slow bike rider, the last thing I want is obstacles in my way. I don't want to ever have to avoid a head-on to cement. Now, we talked about the track at Cardiff, and those people are swerving. Okay, they did that to themselves. That's a different issue. We'll get to there. But once again, on the Santa Fe, please don't put cement in the middle of the bike lane. Let the bikers go straight. They can go and they can push the button and cross the road if they need to. It's not about convenience. Now, let's talk about the crosswalk at Seaside. Once again, it's not needed. And I heard that our proposals will interfere with wildlife in the nature reserve. Neighbors in Solana Beach right there will be having lights shining in their eyes. Last night I talked about a lighting ordinance, so let's not go there. But once again, there is a crosswalk 100 yards to the south. There already is an existing crosswalk with a controlled intersection. They can do this. It's not about convenience for everybody. Let's talk about the cost-benefit ratio, benefit-cost ratio versus set-aside grants. That was not clear what type of grants these are. There's no data on these reports. There's no crash density data. You're being asked to approve stuff with no data. That's really scary. What this commission does is perhaps more important than any other commission because you have the long-lasting effects. You affect every single person in this city. What your decisions affect other people in the county and other cities, tourists, everybody. So now back to the road. It's narrow. If you want to cram a walking path in, then make it wider. That has to go into the lagoon. If it's going to be a rail trail, put it next to the rail trail, like it's called. Now, we heard about the DG path. People don't walk on it, and you know why? Because it's dirt and sand, and it's painful, it's not level, it gets in your shoes. There's lots of reasons why this is bad. So consider this. Thank you.
Next, we have Marco Gonzalez, followed by Judy Burlfine and Tom Bertulis.
Marco Gonzalez. I'm only going to speak to the South Coast Highway 101 alternatives. I don't believe that there's a need for a walking path on the east side of the highway there. I think if you took that 5 feet and you added 3 to 5 feet of that to the DG pathway on the west side, you would in fact get a lot more people walking over there. I think the main reason people don't walk on that DG path is because it's too narrow. And I also believe that we have done a really good experiment from Chesterfield up to K Street with a bi-directional bike path and a large pedestrian path next to it. I think it works extremely well, and it works well with reverse-in parking. I think if we were to mimic that down there with the road diet, and we were to have 2 11-foot lanes with an on-street 6-foot Class 2 bikeway with 17 feet or 17 feet of reverse-in parking and then a bi-directional bike path and a 10-foot DG, we would have an absolutely world-class infrastructure piece, much like we have in our coastal rail trail. That being said, I also think that we would benefit by having a raised Z crossing to the eastern side from the Seaside parking lot. I think the Z crossing does a lot in terms of visibility to the automobiles. I think narrowing the lanes down to one in each direction, much like we see just north of Chesterfield, on the northbound lanes. I think it does a really good job of naturally slowing people down. We reduced the speed limit in that stretch down to, I believe it was 30 a few years back in an attempt to make it safer. And we did a lot of enforcement right when that happened, but that enforcement seems to have dried up. And so folks regularly travel 50 to 60 miles through there. I think natural barriers or natural reductions in speed are critical to making this stretch safe for pedestrians and cyclists. At the end of the day, probably the biggest issue for cycling in this stretch is the fact that it's so popular with runners, parents with strollers, and all types of multimodal users. And I think we should encourage that. I think it keeps us on the map, and as was said earlier by Commissioner Medak, this is one of the most beautiful stretches in the California coast. We could do a lot more to make it attractive to non-auto users. And I think by adding that reverse in parking along that stretch where it doesn't currently exist, the added coastal access you get from that will go a long way when we get to the Coastal Commission and ask for their approval. Thank you.
Hi, I want to talk about the protected intersection at Santa Fe and the 101. I like option 2. Well, the goal of having a protected intersection is to shorten the space that you have to cross as a pedestrian or a cyclist, because the less time you're in that space, the safer you are. So I like option 2 because it reduces the lanes, and I like having a crosswalk and a cross bike in 3 directions, so people will not turn from the center. On the cycle track 101 walking path discussion, I believe that I'm understanding this correctly. We are just talking about, Abe, correct me, from the border of Solana Beach to Las Olas. We're not talking about all the way to Chesterfield, correct?
The grant language calls up to Cardiff State Beach entrance, from border to
Cardiff State Beach, so not all the way to Chesterfield. So there are a lot of great suggestions in there, and I agree with Mr. Medak. Removing a lane and having a 2-way cycle track and adding bike lanes back in is terrific. But we have to be very careful about what we're talking about, because right now we have a 2-way cycle track from Swamis to Chesterfield. This is proposing then go to a 1-way cycle track and then go back to a 2-way cycle track. I love this idea of the 2-way cycle track, but it has to go all the way to Chesterfield. We can't go from 2-way to 1-way to 2-way. And you asked about how many lanes there are when you go north of Chesterfield, it does narrow down to 1 lane. So we do have places where we have 1 lane and the traffic is flowing. I think what we really need is some electronic speed monitoring on this stretch, and we'll find out how fast people really are going, and then we'll realize our biggest problem is that people are going too fast, and whatever we can do to slow people down. So we have the 2-way cycle track, we have bike lanes, and we have 1 lane of traffic that will discourage people who are going to Del Mar from driving on the coast. They'll take the freeway. The people who are driving there are there because they want to look at the beautiful ocean, so they don't need to rush, they don't need to speed. We have a friend who's a bouncer at one of those restaurants, and he said the biggest problem is the speed. He sits there for 8 hours a day. He's been doing this for 8 years, and he said, people are just crazy the way they drive here. So however we can slow people down. Thank you very much.
Hello, hello. So, yeah, I mean, once again, I agree with Marco and I agree with Judy. Thank you both for your excellent comments. And so I'll go through all projects, and I will start by saying I very much support red light cameras and speed cameras and I do drive, so that'll affect me, but I really support those, especially after everything that everybody said here. We really need red light cameras and speed cameras, and the OTS grant is great. There's lots of other grants. There's the SS4A, Safe Streets for All. San Jose got an $8.5 million grant for red light cameras. We can do the same. The biggest thing I want to talk about is Santa Fe at El Camino Real. You know, Brody passed away there a couple years ago. The protected intersection, I very much support it. It would create a two-phase movement, so cyclists wouldn't go unless you wanted to, but most cyclists would be encouraged to go cross in two phases, if that makes any sense. So I very much support that. There was another option I didn't see listed here that I support, I want to call 3B, because they said, oh, either have 3 lanes everywhere or 2 lanes everywhere, which doesn't make sense because most of the traffic comes down Santa Fe, eastbound, and then turns eastbound left up onto El Camino Real. So that's the high movement. And then the southbound right onto Santa Fe. That's where most people, I go to Trader Joe's from Cardiff, so I go through there a couple times a week. I know it really well. So I recommend 2 lanes northbound, to Santa Fe Drive, and then north of Santa Fe Drive, 3 lanes. So it's a hybrid version. I would really like to see that. My request is to show that as an option. I would like to see a PED signal, like the Swami's PED signal at the Solana Beach, Cardiff intersection. That's my preference because the RFBs, the studies have shown there's not a lot of compliance. You just don't yield for that. For Highway 101 in Cardiff, I really like the 2-way cycle track. I really agree with Judy, get it all the way up to Chesterfield, but long term, I want to see continuous 2-way cycle track from Solana Beach to Chesterfield. I would say what was missing from the street mix cross section is a wider sidewalk on the west side of the street. Got people going to the beach, carrying surfboards, and it really narrows down there. So before the cycle track, we need more space for people walking, then a wider cycle track. That's sort of really, really key. And then the last project is Encinitas Boulevard, another place I know well. I go to the YMCA 3 times a week up there. I support the separated bike lane with some sort of physical separation. I think there was a comment about there's mixed opinions on whether it's safe or not from the professionals. So if you look at any peer-reviewed study in the United States, and for transportation professionals, the most popular one is the TRR, Transportation Research Record. 100% of those peer-reviewed studies support protection or separation with physical elements that's safer. I understand that if you're racing, you don't want the flex posts. I used to do triathlons and bike races, and I didn't like flex posts. But for all ages and abilities, we need the physical separation. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Astrid Fleischer, followed by Christine Schindler and Molly Hintlian.
So I just want to kind of say I agree totally with these two talkers, Judy and the gentleman with the red T-shirt. So I'm not going to repeat any of that. So I wanted to just say the intersection Santa Fe and El Camino Real, I hope you will improve it because of Bodie dying there. My daughter was in the same grade with him. So, and I do think the option with the 3, where you have one crossover only on one side, I don't think that's safe. Kids will just kind of cut corners and not want to wait and go over and then go back and stuff like that. Give it in all directions so the kids can use it. And the other thing is, also, please continue with the East Santa Fe corridor improvement. I know this is kind of off topic, but I think we need to keep in mind the most important is that our kids can get to school safely. My daughter used to bike there. She's rejecting it. She's taking the car now. She's also old enough. But she used to, we used to make her bike to Syndicator Tennis Club. She was scared to death. We stopped doing this. So can you improve for the people living east of El Camino Real, can you improve it a little bit? So kids will bike, it's awesome that they can, but it's just not safe if you come from east, from New Encinitas, going to Syndicator Academy. It's really a disaster. It's unsafe, and I hope you work on this one and make it good for our kids. Thank you.
All right, so Christine Schindler, East Encinitas. So I just wanted to appreciate the amount of work that staff did to get to this point. So it's a lot of information, a lot of work on their part. A lot to mention. I probably won't be able to do it all. So I used to live in Solana Beach. I'm part of Bike Walk Solana. I live in Encinitas now, part of Encinitas Bike Walk. We've been talking about this for a long time, and I know things take time. I think the communication, the cities have been communicating about this. Council members are aware of it. I don't want us to try to satisfy a very small interest group. So, wanted this ped crossing. I can't even tell you how many years ago, 20 years ago probably, or whenever the Coastal Rail Trail went in Solana Beach, I said we need a crosswalk. And at that point, we were looking at the top of the hill at Ocean Boulevard. That never happened. It was a complete fail on my part as an advocate. So I just want this crossing to go in. So I don't care if it's what. You guys hearing that? Oh, okay.
Commissioner Maddow, could you mute yourself?
So I just want a crosswalk to go in, Z crossing, RFBs, a direct crossing with like Swami's, just something. Let's just do it. What I don't understand is we're not talking about Coastal Rail Trail. So from Oceanside to downtown, jurisdictions are supposed to be doing the Coastal Rail Trail. We have our Cardiff segment. We're talking about our Leucadia segment. So why are we talking about all these different options where we should just be talking about the next segment for the Coastal Rail Trail? I also want the bus stops to come back. The bus stops disappeared. I don't know why. You would think that they would want to encourage busing along the corridor. You have to go a long way north and a long way south to get to bus stops. So, let's get it done. So as far as Encinitas Boulevard goes, oh my gosh, please, let's not add another lane. When Abe said that, I just wanted to pull my hair out. We need traffic calming. We don't need more flow on Encinitas Boulevard. Thankfully, Emery's parents who were here, and I just want to acknowledge how hard that must be for them to hear about a pedestrian fatality, which is basically their daughter. James said, 2 fatalities on Encinitas Boulevard in 4 months. We don't need more lanes. We don't need more speeding. I don't want hard stops, bollards, buffers, and I ran out of time.
I'm short. There you go. Molly Hitland, District 2. Related concerns, I'm just going to focus on Encinitas Boulevard because there's a lot that was covered by Abe. I want to share the concerns by the woman from Delphinium where her daughter goes to the school off of Westlake. I live in that neighborhood. I also have a friend whose daughter goes to that school, and she won't let her daughter walk to school there because it's not safe, and it's going to get increasingly worse. So if we're to look at any use of funds for safety, my biggest concern, as Lisa Provenzano brought up, was we're going to have more development. We have 3 apartment complexes within 500 feet of each other. Sunshine is going fast. And my big concern is, if you read all the planning traffic stuff, we're going to have a driveway in and out on Encinitas Boulevard. It's supposed to be for delivery people, but you can bet people are going to be using it to access. And it's not going to be safe on the walkway to walk down to Quail, to cross, to go to Westlake. And there's going to be all kinds of crazy traffic with U-turns at Delphinium because people are going to get frustrated with the traffic flow. So I think that we definitely have to think about the stacking up of cars at St. John's, but I really don't think adding more bike lanes and ballards and deterrence, I think the issue is the cars and the flow, and we have to make sure we're providing proper flow because Encinitas Boulevard is a major arterial to the freeway. And if we don't allow, there's also the fire station just up the street on Belor. If we do not allow space for cars to pull over when there is an emergency, it's already going to be a huge, I can't think of the word, anyway, log jam. So we do need to improve our crosswalks. I feel so badly about what happened recently with Amanda, and nobody wants more bike accidents. It's horrible. So we definitely, this commission needs to ensure citizen participation with all of these new concepts that we have available to us. I think a lot of our citizens who live and are affected in the various pockets where all these accidents are, we need to hear from them, and they need to be a part of the commission and participate with you before going to city council, so we don't have another Santa Fe Drive. Thank you.
Our last speaker is Lisa Provenzano.
Good evening, Commission and staff. I appreciate that Commissioner Trout did make a comment on Santa Fe Drive back in parking. Next door, a lot of people gave input on that, and people aren't very good at diagonal or angular backing in. It backs in, there's two little curbs with rocks in the middle, I guess maybe for water flow. So you have to climb over that. So as long as the city is accruing a lot of money for its lawsuits, but it shouldn't be that way. Then a gentleman said, well, my wheelchair can't get over that. And so I drove by and I looked at, and if he parked here or someone brought him there and he had to get his wheelchair, he would have to go out into traffic and go down to where there's the little opening. So if one more penny gets spent on any back-in parking, angular parking like that, I don't know one person in the city that has said that that is a good idea. Matter of fact, they're upset because the money to fix Santa Fe Drive, if that happens, and it might happen because of fatality. I mean, there's a school there. And there's people, and there's a fire department, and there's a hospital. It'll happen. And Abe, when I talked about Encinitas Road, the timing of the lights, he said, well, at the end, I guess he was trying to make me feel better of this little meeting I had with him, and he said, well, sometimes, you know, something big has to happen before changes are made. And it did. And I wasn't in the loop enough to know about the other ones that occurred. So please, don't do that. The only one I've seen that works but is dangerous to the bicyclists is at Dog Beach in Del Mar, because there's a little lane that you can pull into and back without stopping traffic. There's not even room for big trucks, like not commercial trucks, to get up Santa Fe Drive right now without, I look at people, even on, I think it's Leucadia Boulevard, you see people, they're like so in the lanes and they're riding on the lane. So you're slowing down because you're thinking, okay, if he swerves over at all, he'll hit me. So there's just, you sound like you have your finger on the pulse of the residents, and no more back in angular parking anywhere. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Let's see, we're moving on to 7B, uniform signing and striping at roundabouts in the city. I'm sorry. Did I?
The commissioners get to talk on this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. on the roundabouts? Oh,
Or was this just a presentation?
it was public comment. It was public comment that we just did after.
And after, do the commissioners need to discuss this? Okay, because I want to discuss that.
Okay, go ahead.
Abe, you've given us, you've described 4 areas, and each of these is, would be an agenda item by itself, so I'm not sure what we're supposed to do with it. I look at it, and the most important thing to me here is safety of our kids. And that leads me to saying that if we have any prioritization, the El Camino and Santa Fe, any of the 4 maps that you've presented are better than the current situation. Okay, and I want to see action there. Encinitas Boulevard, it's going to be a mess when Sunshine Gardens project gets done. And probably the way to deal with the mess is after it is a mess, we figure out how to solve the problems. Because until there's a problem, there's no money for doing much. And anything that we could predict is probably going to be different than whatever the actual problem is there. I can see Quail Gardens Drive and Encinitas Boulevard being a parking lot. And then we could pave over the whole thing, cars and all, and start again. But it's probably too premature to do something of that part of Encinitas Boulevard. The part that's east of El Camino Real, near Trader Joe's, and the 2 accidents that have been there, it seems like the accidents, I don't know enough about the accidents to know if it's if this is just a portent of a fatality every month or what. But it's frightening, and I don't think we've got enough information here to do anything about that tonight. The Cardiff Beach, there are all kinds of things that should be done there, and there's all kinds of disagreements about what should be done. And I guess this is something that maybe takes a council to set up a task force or something. Those are my comments on this.
Thank you. Any other comments from commissioners? Okay, so, very good.
Chair, I think per standard procedure, if meeting is going after 8:30, you need a motion to extend the meeting. I think I think it's for every 1 hour. I don't know. Something else is that we do have a meeting on June 9th. We have the new traffic sergeant. I don't want her to feel like all of our meetings go for 4 or 5 hours. But your call, either a motion to extend or we can visit these 2 items in 2 weeks on June 9th. But if you want to continue, I think we need a motion.
How do the commissioners feel about continuing, or do you want to postpone it to June 9th? You know.
Is there anything urgent for tonight?
A work plan initially was urgent because our joint meeting was supposed to happen next week, but the joint meeting is now scheduled for June 28th. So we can review the work plan June 9th, and there's no problem with that.
So I can go either way then.
25th, sorry.
I know that they're going to kick me out of the airport at 9 o'clock.
I think we're going to end this meeting, and then the additional agenda items will be covered on June 9th. Is that correct? Did I get the right date?
I think you need a motion.
Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn this evening and to address the additional items at the June 9th meeting.
Motion to adjourn and extend to the next meeting.
Okay.
I'll give you a second.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ron, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Did you hear the
Can you hear
motion
me?
to adjourn?
Yes, and I said aye, but I'll repeat it. Yes, I am in favor of that.
Thank you.
Okay, meeting adjourned at 8:25.
Thank you, Patricia.
Thanks.
What's that?
Yeah. I thought that was bad. I thought it took less time than it was gonna. There was a lot of
Yeah,
time to
that's
speak.
true. I don't know, we had so many people here.
Well, people feel strongly about this stuff.
I know, I agree, that's right.
So of the stats, the sorters, stats. Thank you for your work. I
I do for us, so because it's.
You know who does? Builders. That's who does. They support it because they can put more parking. They only have to have 1.6 parking spots if they have so much affordable housing.
Yeah.
There's no parking on Encinitas, 12 hours driving. Okay, so if they even try to do, they need parking. Wait, let me ask you just real quick. You talked about how they can claim so how do I see that? I don't know anything. I just want to find out what the components are that have to be in line for that to happen.
question, so is that report, acceptable? Was it part of the EMS that we can click on it? Your
That email wasn't available, but if you give me your email address, I can send you. You have my address, my email address?
I know how to track you, I know how to track you.
I can send it to you.
Welcome, this is my first time on this board, there's much. I'll send you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So, experience.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
We need a motion to extend, but, I was thinking just post people that are items and continue with the Encinitas corner and the other items, but can you guys just? Okay. Because technically, we only postponed those two items and we continue to. One item you had. It's like, it's nothing, it's just like like the whole graph, you're like, no way, I'm not together, I'm not worried. But this is what so, I haven't really done much, like what you saw was everything that we had. We will come back with like more excessive, like design, and as you said, like each one will be its own item. Here, but again, like 6, 7 people, like how our council was feeling about it. Because I know Mayor doesn't like road. I know Mayor doesn't like road diet. He has expressed it, but we were applying, what was it, like 6, 7 months ago, he said he doesn't. We'll see, maybe he changes. Well, yeah, we had, she asked me if we raised it. I have, I read like 8:30 and there's like 3 more items.
Thank you.
So I come to the meeting. This is just amazing.
We've gone past it, but usually we pass this like 20 minutes, so I didn't know it, but I knew like we're going to pass this in 4 hours. Yeah, I think it's yeah. The council has it. Past 2 hours.
Well, I still think they should get all determined. They have one spot. Okay, well, I'll send you an email. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. One parking spot. Can we have a little buffer?
Well, they said a few weeks, I was like, I'm not trying to listen to you.
Oh, no, I am. So feel better.
Why hasn't it worked yet? We don't need.
All right. Thank you.
For letting us know.
Thank you very much.
Hear it next month.
Anything I should vote in advance?
So we can get the sheriff's department to do that, to say that. Yeah, I mean,
One parking spot, really, for real. I mean, I watched this guy that parks there, I don't even.
I just got knee replacement 4 weeks ago, so.
So we need to get this in council on board.